tonight with the Pledge of Allegiance. Under announcements and presentations, I do need to announce that the board held an executive session this evening, December 17th, and we discussed personnel, real estate acquisition, and matters involving attorney-client privilege. We're pleased to have a few representatives this evening with us from the Simpson Public Library here to give an annual update. Ms. Sue Erdman, come on up.
Good evening. Good evening. So I want you to think about the day after Christmas, 29 years ago, this upcoming day after Christmas, Simpson Library opened the doors at the Walnut Street facility. And since then, things have just been amazing over the years. After that, in 2003, we finished the upper level of the library to provide more space. And then 20 years later, we purchased another building, the former Agway building on Allen Street, and raised money and finished that facility for our learning and book sale center. Those are the most visible accomplishments of the 29 years that I have been there, but there have been so many more not as visible and not as in-your-face type accomplishments, but just the services that we are providing are so important for the community. And we could only do that with support from our 5 municipalities in our service area, plus the donors and library patrons that we have here. So my official retirement date is February 15th. My last day in the office is December 31st. So still have a lot of things I'm trying to wrap up. But it is my pleasure to introduce to you tonight Elizabeth Seidel. She goes by Lizzie, and she is our new executive director, and I am so happy to welcome her to Simpson Library.
Everyone, yes, so like Sue said, my name is Lizzie, and I am the incoming executive director, and I'm going to be providing a small update for you from the library and what we've been doing in 2025. So I did hand you folders before we started with this information, but just to go over it for the room's benefit, our 2025 summer learning program theme this year was Color Your World. We had over 750 children, 250 teens, and 400 adults participate this year. So that's folks coming into the library and at home reading, participating in programs, and preventing that summer slide to help get everybody ready for the school year next year or this coming year. So that was those numbers. That's really excellent. In addition, we had over 1,400 folks of all ages participate in Go Cumberland, which is a program that we partner with WellSpan to get folks visiting area parks and doing hikes and completing outdoor recreation to get people moving in addition to library programs and reading. With grant funds from the Pennsylvania Broadband Authority, we were able to, just in October, purchase laptop computers for in-house use. And this has been fabulous. As of, I think when I pulled the numbers 2 weeks ago, we had 124 checkouts of those laptops just since we purchased them in October. So that's really excellent. Folks are able to use them for research, studying, job search, health appointments, and much more. And that's in addition to our desktop internet computers that we have as well. Like Sue said, renovations to the former Agway building were completed in December of 2024. This is now our Joseph T. Simpson Public Library Learning and Book Sale Center. It provides our friends of the library with space to expand their quarterly book sale, which has been fabulous, and additional space for library programs and meeting rooms. So if you haven't had the chance to come see it, I highly recommend it. It looks awesome. Our capital campaign fundraising efforts continue to fund the renovations. We just got over $1.8 million of our $2 million goal for capital campaign. And so that is continuing. And then the board has developed a 2025 to 2027 strategic plan to guide our work into the future. That's also included in your folder in case you're curious to see where we're going and what we'll be working on together. And it's also available online if anybody else in the room would like to reference that. So I'll be working with the board and with the staff on implementing that for the next couple years. In addition, as our 2024 annual report, so notes on numbers from 2024, circulation, how many library cards we had, those kinds of things, just to kind of see how your donation is making a real impact in your community. I hope to next year, maybe Q1 or Q2, bring you 2025 numbers so you can see them more in real time, how you're supporting your library. And then information on the Friends of the Library, which is an amazing supportive group for us, and then information on our capital campaign. In addition, my card is in here. If you would like to reach out to me at any point to come in and see the library and see your donation in action, please feel free to do that. Come and get a library card. Any questions, I'm happy to take them now or later with the information on the card. So.
Okay, any questions for Lizzie? Dave?
Donation. Sale.
Yes. Yep. Donations you can drop them off at the Learning and Book Sale Center. There's like a nice donation area you can drop off at.
Much nicer than the shed.
Yeah. Yeah. So definitely.
Have like boxes.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. Definitely. Thank you. Yeah.
And welcome to the new job.
Thank you.
You're going to have big shoes to fill, but
Yes. Yeah.
congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lizzie.
Thank you.
Sue, before you go, if I could maybe just ask you to stick around. We just want to take a moment and recognize the service to the community. So we have a letter of recognition from the staff and the board. If you don't mind, I'll read that to you. Silver Spring Township wishes to recognize Miss Sue Erdman, Executive Director of the Joseph T. Simpson Public Library, upon her retirement. Ms. Erdman has faithfully served her community since 1987 in librarian and director roles. Ms. Erdman has had a long and successful career, starting as technical services librarian at Bossler Memorial Library, then serving as reference adult services librarian and assistant director, until being named director at Simpson Library in 1996. In these roles, Ms. Erdman has witnessed the growth of generations, nurtured the minds of countless individuals, and provided a sanctuary for those in search of knowledge. Ms. Erdman's contributions to education and community development are profound and far-reaching. Her dedication to fostering an environment where learning and personal growth are prioritized has left an indelible mark on everyone she has encountered. Ms. Erdman's commitment to excellence has earned her recognition throughout her career. This dedication serves as an inspiration to many, and her achievements are a testament to her hard work. Ms. Erdman has dedicated her time and effort to improving Mechanicsburg and enhancing the quality of life for its residents. Her unwavering commitment and passion have left a lasting impact on the community. Ms. Erdman's legacy serves as a reminder of the impact that one person can have on the lives of many. Sue, after years of contributing so much, it's finally your turn to unwind and enjoy life's pleasures. May the next chapters of your life be filled with joy, relaxation, countless adventures. With sincere appreciation and best wishes, signed Silver Spring Township Supervisors and staff. So if you'd all join me in thanking and congratulating Sue for her service. And we also promised Sue that we would snap a quick picture, so I can meet you down here. All right, thanks again, guys. Thanks for coming in. We'll hand it over to Township Manager Ray Palmer now for a few updates.
Sue, thank you. I had the good fortune to actually do some pet therapy over there. which is pretty cool for the young kids. Bring your dog and you read. Just want to say thank you for having that as one of the many things you guys offer the community. So just want to say thank you again. Do a quick, there you go. As we always do, just a quick update through 11 months this year, the financial performance. Things continue to be strong as we go along, even with the weather being what it is, our permits continue to do quite well. Go ahead, second. I'm not going to read them all. I did it in the budget. We're going to have probably the largest investment in capital that's going to happen in 2026, with a majority of it being driven by infrastructure projects that we have, and also driven by some of the grants that I'll talk about that we're waiting to hear the answer since the budget's been passed. Go ahead, Scott. It takes 2 pages. Keep going. Thanks, Scott. There are 2 very important grants. They're always important to get every dollar you can, but there are 2 large ones. One is going to be Woods Drive. We put in for an LSA $1 million grant, and also for the state Texaco realignment, it's 2.7. So we're hearing tomorrow, when we're hoping, praying, whatever we need to do, that we'll hear the update on the Woods Drive. As everybody knows, we talked about the intersection and the enormous amount of capital that's going to be required to modify that intersection and then modify Woods Drive for a better throughway. With regards to the PennDOT multimodal, PennDOT's an independent organization, and they kind of work a little bit different on timelines. So we hope by the end of the year we'll get an update on that grant. That's a huge grant for us to work on State Road, the curvatures, and also the elevation around some of the curves there. So TBD on the date that'll happen. So tomorrow they are meeting in Harrisburg to decide the LSA. Usually they make those decisions as a mass amount of money, and then in the afternoon they'll post that by municipality and who was awarded those grants. So let's hope we get the $1 million. That'd be huge. Thanks, Scott. Trindle Spring Trade Center, still pending. Recycling Center, that's also been moved probably to the March period. Texaco Rezone, we'll have a conversation tonight about the updates there. And then tonight you'll hear about the advertisement of the data warehouse ordinance that the board will decide on. Go ahead. Just again, one update, even though Costco had a lot of energy and then it opened, we continue to hear great things with regards. We've not had one traffic issue and not one issue with gas. We have heard nothing at all in terms of the traffic control. So right now we can say that we're really happy with so far the design, but there's been no issues with regard to the, especially the gas station and backup. Go ahead. We talked about this last time. That's the tunnel, 2027. That'll connect the school over to the hemp property. We showed the video. I just wanted to show it again. It's an exciting project. That'll be a great asset to the community to help in public safety. Next there, Woods Drive. We talked about it last time. The intersection. You're going to hear sometime early in 2026. We'll get the dates out. We're going to have some public meetings to talk about some ideas we have, to get the public's input on some of the design and some of the ideas that we have. We're going to be focusing in on initially the intersection. And we again, we'll post some dates to have some of those feedbacks from residents, both at the intersection area and then Woods Drive going towards the Carlisle Pike. So it's a big, big project for the township. I post this each time. We had Winter's Night last week over at New Kingstown. Where's the Glenn? Thank you and the team, as always. Just a great, great partner in hosting us to allow us to have a really great night for all our residents to come see some of the vendors and also see Santa and the people in the sleigh and so forth. So last thing of the year is going to be the story time, which will also be at New Kingstown. We get a lot of kids who come over for the story time. Go ahead. Took a picture. Maybe it's hard to tell here. All of the staff donated money to put together what I would say is an enormous amount of presents, which you see here. And we dedicated this to some families within the Cumberland Valley School District. And I want to publicly thank the staff for doing that. We dropped them off today, and they could not be any more thankful for what we did. So it was a real feel good, and I just want to say thanks to the staff for doing that. Lastly, this will be fresh to everybody. We had a storm Saturday. I want to say thank you to every single staff member, from community development for the fielding of the calls, to the permits, to I want to come in and talk about an application, to questions on zoning. It goes on and on. We go to the public works side. Those guys came in Saturday at 7 o'clock, worked all through the night. So it was an interesting storm that got us through into Sunday. Come back Monday, and then they jump back out there from 4 to 7 on a quick pass through. They are the frontline people. I can't thank enough. Great job by the team. Our police department, the board has agreed to add 2 more police officers. I want to publicly thank Chief Robinstein for the work he does every day. Sometimes you only see what you see, and there's a lot more that goes on behind the scenes. We also had our Shop with a Cop program over at New Kingstown on Saturday, where they put together from the golf event, I think it's about 30 families, roughly. Yeah, 31 students. They take them shopping, and they get an opportunity to have Christmas. They buy for themselves, their moms, their dads, their brothers, their sisters, and we help that Christmas become a better Christmas. And it's an amazing job that the police do. But I just want to publicly acknowledge the work you do. And then our administration staff, which is our finance. I think you all see that when you get the audit, there's 3 months of audits based on 12 months of work. And we, again, this year got a really good rating on our audit, which hats off to Suba and Cheryl on the finance side, to every single person who touches everything we do every day from an inquiry. I can name all the people. And I want to, I could say everything about a lot about every individual person, but one person I want to just, when you think about the organization, you say, who's the voice? And the voice sits in the back, and that's Amy. She is the first voice you hear, and there's nothing but great praise about how Amy manages that phone, how she gets them to the right people, to the work she does. And I just want to say, Amy, Willetta, Scott, everybody that's a part of all that we do, it's an enormous amount of energy. And this is a dynamic community, very dynamic. And I want to publicly thank them and our Board of Supervisors who have the same passion we do on a day-to-day basis for the work we're trying to do, and that's serve you, the residents. So I just want to say thank you for that. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Thanks, Ray.
Thank you, Ray.
Okay, we'll move to public comment. If there is any, please come up to the mic.
Good evening, Paul Fisher, 17 Longwood Drive. I'm actually here in attendance tonight rather than on Zoom, but I do want to mention a couple things to the supervisors. For me personally, the Zoom has become ineffective. It's degraded in such a way that it's really hard to understand. So I'm not sure. I saw in the budget you guys have allocated money to upgrade the sound system and the video, I'm assuming. But as a reminder, can you please step or move closer to your microphones when you're speaking for everyone that is on Zoom tonight? And the other thing is, if the chairman could remind speakers, we had speakers at the last meeting on this side of the podium, you couldn't hear anything. So one other thing I want to mention is, if the board would consider a resolution or policy, data centers have become a very hot topic item within the community and nationally as well. With that, non-disclosure agreements seem to be a very hot topic. So I would ask that the board consider a policy or resolution. I'm sure you can consult with Sean what the requirement would be, that it would specifically prohibit the use of a non-disclosure agreement by any developer for any situation, whether it be a supervisor, township employee, or a employed contractor, including the engineer and the solicitor. So I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Other comment? Come on up.
Good evening. Donald Jurlitz, 1025 Group Mill Road, New Oxford, Pennsylvania. I am here to formally request that the hearing on the map amendment be canceled for this evening for a number of reasons. The first, we were not given proper notification. We received a FedEx letter yesterday, not 30 days ahead like you're supposed to. Second, our property was not even posted at all, and I just looked today. Next, you have included property owned by Norfolk Sutherland Railroad on the rezoning, and they're not listed as a property owner that's to be affected. So there's an error in the map, and I'm sure that they were not notified either. And the last reason is, since we're under litigation, it seems totally inappropriate to do this, because depending on how the litigation goes, there's no need to do this, because clearly our property is the target. And all of the other people on Texaco Road are going to suffer the consequences of it because you're targeting our property. So I request that you make a decision and vote on canceling that hearing now.
Thanks, Don.
Okay.
Okay, other public comment? Anybody online, Scott? Okay. Seeing none other, then we'll move on to consent agenda. Any comments or questions on consent?
I have something that's missing from the minutes. I already mentioned this to Willetta. It's in the November 19th minutes under the Mervyn Rodabaugh final subdivision plan. There is listed the waiver, Linker Brown motion, and that the board approved that waiver, but there's nothing in the minutes about the entire plan being approved. And I'm certain that we did approve it unanimously, the final plan. So that just needs to be added to the minutes. Thank you. That's
Thanks,
all I
Laura.
have.
All right, other comments, questions?
Yes, I have a concern with the minutes on the 11/19/25 meeting. On page 6, it says the second paragraph, it's made to believe that I'm requesting that we make a payment to the lobbyist. If you read that, if you listen to the audio on it, I'm requesting that we stop using the lobbyist. I was against it in the beginning, and I feel like it's a waste of money. And if you read the minutes, how it's stated, it's nothing even close to what my opinion was on it. And I'll read. It says Supervisor Lanker requested, hold on a minute. Supervisor Lanker requested a minor change to the October 21st budget meeting minutes. He mentioned an expense request for lobbyists. I would like that so that there's no misconstruing of that statement, to have that I'm against the payment to a lobbyist, and I was asking the board that we withdraw from any sort of agreement with the lobbyist, and at which there was no response from any other board member. I'd like to have that added just so that there's no misunderstanding with that. Also on page 11, I'd like to have it where on the municipal campus bid, I would like it stated that I questioned the lowest responsible bidder and the percentage that they are under the rest of the bidders. I had a concern with the bid. I just wanted stated that I questioned the bid due to the nature of how low it was compared to the rest of the bidders. And I had a question for Suba. Just in the future, like we have the developers escrow account page. There was just a list of checks, and I think they went to HRG, but there was no like maybe memo to what plan or who the person was that it, or plan that it was pertaining to in our packet. And this would just be in the future. Can we ensure that there's maybe just a little note so we know, like, if it's Costco or whoever, where it's going to? Okay, it doesn't have to be anything in depth, just a short note, because all I seen was amounts, and I had no idea where they went to. And I would ask that 6F and G would be pulled just to have like a brief discussion on them.
Okay, we'll pull 6F and G. Any other corrections or comments? I just have one question maybe for JJ, the sewer expansion paving project. Do you feel like we've captured, there was, how do I describe? It's kind of some unknown work to be done. I think it was kind of going to be at the discretion of, staff or HRG during the execution. Do you feel like you guys are comfortable with that?
I believe so,
okay.
yeah. Township staff and specifically Public Works went out there during some rain events to identify some of the problem areas that we discussed
Okay.
previously. And I think through that, we've worked through our conversations and we are comfortable with bidding the project.
Okay, sounds good. All right, appreciate it. With that, then, if there's no other input, we'll look for a motion excluding 6F and G.
I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a
Dave,
motion from
corrections.
Nancy with those corrections. Is there a second?
Second.
Laura, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, if any. That motion carries. 6F is the, yep. Okay. Glenda, did you have some public comment?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm a little unprepared because I just read this like 5 minutes ago, but apparently something occurred between our manager and our solicitor somewhere with a developer over a data center. I have absolutely no information around that, but my concern would be, why are we meeting outside township offices about data centers with our manager and our solicitor? And I know you can't answer the question tonight, but that was a little concerning when I saw it earlier. And the other item would be, I understood that the consent agenda was for things that are not important. And I consider the blurb about the data center important, and I wouldn't think that that should be considered in the consent agenda. Who decides what goes in the consent agenda and what doesn't?
So this is really just kicking off that process, Glenda. This isn't adopting an ordinance, right? It's really just setting the public hearing and then advertising the draft that we have. So, I tend to agree in general when you say data center that deserves scrutiny all around. But this again is just to establish the public hearing. So that didn't feel too controversial, but we did already have a request to pull it. So we're going to pull it and we'll discuss it
Okay.
in more detail. So.
And when could I call back concerning my reading of the Facebook tonight about the township manager and solicitor meeting with a data center developer?
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to be on Facebook, unfortunately, yet tonight, but I don't really have any info to give you anything on that, Glenda. I don't know if there's any comment at this point, if you guys want to.
I think that would be a
rumor.
conflict of interest.
Well, you are trusting a pretty inaccurate page, if we're being honest. So, I mean, if staff wants to comment, we could do that.
Yeah, I think everybody in here knows there's enormous amounts of inquiries about data warehouse. And our response has been a data warehouse. Silver Spring Township is not interested. That has been the response. It's been an auto response. They're getting recommended from organizations that want to invest in We've made it very clear. We're not interested. They've heard that from us. It's been very direct. So we'll not going to bury my head in the sand. We're going to still get a lot of calls. The answer is going to be the same answer. We're not interested. And that's been the answer.
And you're meeting with them outside the office to tell them that's the answer?
I'm not sure what you're asking, Linda. Are you asking that I'm meeting off-site?
That was my understanding from what I read just a few minutes ago.
And just like the social media site, it's inaccurate.
Okay.
It's completely inaccurate. I want to again just be clear for every resident here and anybody listening. Data centers, as you all know, is probably the hottest thing going in the country right now, and Pennsylvania is one of those. That call comes, it's the same auto response. Silver Spring Township is not interested in a data warehouse.
Well, to be clear, what we say when we're not interested, those requests are often regarding ag land and
That's correct.
and the appetite of
To
the
rezone
board
it.
to rezone. So
Yep.
that's really what we mean, right? Because we
Thank
know
you
that.
for clarity.
Yeah, just to clarify, because we
Yeah,
know that
thank you.
we must provide for that use. It's unlikely that we have
Correct.
the land, and in fact, we're probably, maybe that's a good segue into the discussion, because we did want to pull 6F, so maybe we can brief on that, and then we can have a discussion on G as well. So, Solicitor Schultz, would you mind maybe just an overview of what 6F does?
Sure, and I can address that, a bit of that question too. I think Chairman Mockemer, what you suggested, I think a lot of, I don't know that, I think I've been part of just about, I mean, there's only been a few meetings, but all of the meetings. And they've generally been looking at ag land, and we've made it clear that the township has long had a land preservation program, specifically to preserve ag land. Once we say that, usually that chills the conversation, and that there's probably no appetite to rezone ag land. And for the most part, I think I can say that they say, well, we don't want to go somewhere where we're not wanted, and they move on. And that's generally been the end of that conversation. We have used the opportunity to have discussions with them, understand their perspective on things. Of course, to the extent that there is, as I've mentioned in prior meetings, there is the ability for a data center to come into the township in the I-2 as a conditional use. But none of them have been interested in scooping up any of those warehouses, which makes up most of the I-2 at this point. So I can and to jump into the ordinance, I don't know that you want me to go detail by detail through the ordinance, but we did
quick overview of what the ordinance does, Sean.
It's largely what we discussed previously.
Yeah.
So it's really the same ordinance. It's reorganized based on the direction of the board to make the conditions that would apply to data centers where applicable, make them apply to the other conditional uses in the I-2. And it really, my attempt in recrafting that was also to dovetail as much as I could into this from the conditions that Mr. Boucher had presented some time ago. I think the board's direction included that. So you'll see the same or similar buffers and other conditions that would apply as were found in several of Mr. Boucher's conditions. The only condition that kind of hangs out on its own, because it doesn't apply to most other conditional uses in the I-2, is decommissioning of data centers. That's a very specific requirement. So that sits as a specific provision that applies only to data centers.
John, the reason I wanted it pulled out, there was, and I don't know all the details. There's on the national news a lot about the president making some sort of executive order pertaining to the AI data centers. Would that trump, no pun intended, any ordinance that we would have? That was why I wanted it pulled out, to hear what you have to say about that.
No, you have control over land use decisions locally.
All right. That was my main concern, that if we did something and that order would pretty much make it null and void. That was my main concern on
Right.
that. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, we could entertain a motion on 6F if the board would desire.
Make a motion to approve.
Dave moved,
Second.
Nancy second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, if any, that motion carries. 6G is an appointment of deputy tax collector. Dave, you had a question? on that?
And this is maybe a comment to go back to the incoming tax collector. With the appointment of a family member as the secondary tax collector, I have no problem with that, but maybe we ought to have one below that in the event of, like an accident or something where they were involved. Where would that put us if we didn't have someone else in that role? I never thought about it before, but it made me think when I seen that.
The board would appoint a new tax collector. In that situation, there would be a period of time, obviously, before you could act on that. But then you would appoint the new tax collector.
So that position would be to the end of the year, or would that be to fill out the term of the tax collector? How would that?
It would depend where that would fall. So tax collector is elected in municipal election years. So it would be until at least the end of the end of the year that includes the next municipal election. So if it were to have, I don't wish any ill on Bob or Joanne.
No.
But if-
It just made me
right.
think about that.
Yeah, but if something were to occur next year and they were no longer able to perform those duties, you would appoint someone and that person would serve until the end of 2027, where there would be an election on the ballot for a partial term of the tax collector.
Okay, now here's the other part of my question. God forbid something happened to Bob, does that person slide up automatically? Or how does that come into play then? With them being like a deputy tax collector, do they automatically become the tax collector then?
No, the deputy tax collector steps in the shoes for the time being of the tax collector, and then you'd still appoint that new tax collector.
Okay, because I read in the thing, it said you could make more than one.
Mhm.
That's more deputies than one, and that's where, like, I was thinking about this. If that would be the event, something would occur, if that was a move-up position, I just wanted clarification.
Yeah, the intent of that revision to the statute was where needed to ensure that there's enough staffing to perform the duty. It's not unlike row offices, county row offices, where there's a deputy register of wills and so forth.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, thanks.
Okay, thanks, Dave. I'll look for a motion then on 6G.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Dave moved. Do we have a second?
Second.
Harry second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, if any, that motion carries. We have a few public hearings this evening. The first one is conditional use application for 180 Cost Road. I believe we have representatives this evening. Welcome, gentlemen. And, I guess before you start, I should turn that over to Solicitor Schultz to kick off the hearing. Sorry about that.
Right, and I'll just, this is conditional use on 180 Cost Road. It's parcel ID 380805710002B. And it's for a proposed roof-mounted solar panels in the I-1 zone. There were no parties who requested party status to this conditional use. And I don't believe, Attorney Dillinger, do you have any exhibits beyond the application itself?
I do have two additional. I'm going to be handing out updated packets to the board, and I believe the stenographer has them. It's just two additional exhibits, one being the PowerPoint presentation that we might reference some pictures on, and the last exhibit, what I have marked as applicant's exhibit K. That's just the rooftop lease that the applicant has with the underlying landowner.
Okay.
Those are all the exhibits, though.
So we'll include both the application and the two additional exhibits in the record, and then you may take it from there.
So I'm just going to hand those out really quick.
Thank you.
So as stated, I added those two last exhibits into the packet. The other addition, and I'll be having Lawrence Shing discuss this a little bit. We had a draft emergency response plan that we presented to the Township's Planning Commission. We had some feedback on that, and in conversations with the Township's Emergency Management Coordinator, we've updated that plan. So the exhibit that you all have in your packet reflects those updates, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. My name's Corey Dillinger from MPL Law Firm. I am the land use attorney helping out with this project. Additionally, with me tonight is Lawrence Shing, who is the Associate Project Development Manager with Dimension Energy. Dimension Energy is the parent company of the project LLC we'll be discussing tonight. Additionally, with me tonight is Vincent DiCastelnuovo, who is a project engineer with GEI Consultants, doing kind of the site work and the civil engineering for this project. I'm going to provide the board with a little bit of high-level background. I will be turning it over to Lawrence to talk about Dimension Energy and the project kind of at a high level. Then I will turn it over to Vincent to walk the board through the site plan, and then we will field questions from the board as needed. Applicant is Silver Spring Cost CSG1 LLC. As stated, that's a wholly owned entity of Dimension Energy. I'll probably just be referring to applicant or Dimension kind of interchangeably. We are here tonight seeking an approval from the Silver Spring Township Board of Supervisors for a structure-mounted solar farm via conditional use on a warehouse parcel in the township's light industrial zoning district. As the board knows, structure-mounted solar farms are a conditional use in that district. The parcel ID for the record is 3885712B, and that's located at 180 Cost Road. The applicant does have an option to lease that property for 20 years. It is an approximately 2.25 megawatt AC project. There's a lot of exhibits that we've submitted in support of this application. I am not planning on going through all of them tonight, but I do just want to let the board know what they have in front of them if they have any questions specifically. What I have marked as applicant's Exhibit A is a supplemental narrative. That's a narrative that outlines the underlying regulations in the light industrial district, the structure-mounted solar farm provisions of your ordinance, as well as the conditional use standards that this application is to be judged. Exhibit B, property owner's verification. That is signed by the underlying property owner, just confirming that the applicant has the right to pursue such approval. Exhibit C, conditional use site plan. We'll probably be looking at that up on the PowerPoint board in a little bit. Exhibit D, the key manufacturer specifications. These aren't necessarily the specs that would be used for the project. We're still kind of at the zoning level here, but I like to provide the board just with an idea of what the typical panel, typical string inverter, and the racking system for a project like this would look like. Exhibit E is a noise analysis report that was conducted for the project that predicts any noise or sound generated from the project. Exhibit F is a glare analysis report that was done for the project. Exhibit G, your ordinance requires a structural feasibility report. That's what that is, and I'll have Lawrence talk about that in a little bit. Exhibit H is the operations and maintenance agreement and the emergency response plan. As stated, we've kind of updated that a couple times to address some of the concerns of the township's emergency management coordinator. Exhibit I, a list of adjacent property owners. Exhibit J, the PowerPoint presentation that I think is currently on the screen. And then finally, Exhibit K, that is a redacted lease and the lease amendment that my applicant has with the landlord. It'll be relevant when we talk about decommissioning in a little bit. We do hope that following our presentation, the Board of Supervisors will grant this conditional use approval. The applicant knows that the board may put reasonable conditions on that, and the applicant's willing to work with the township on what those conditions would be. I will note that the Planning Commission recommended an approval of this project that was conditioned on satisfying township comments and also entering into a decommissioning agreement with the township, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. With that being said, I'll call maybe we'll get just both of my witnesses sworn in. And so Lawrence and Vinny, if you both want to stand and raise your right hand.
You'll stand and raise your right hands, please. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in the matter proceeding? Okay, thank you.
So as that said, I'll call you, Lawrence. We'll do our best to both try to speak in the microphone. There's not an extra microphone, is there? Oh, maybe there's. All right. Lawrence, would you please state your name for the record and spell your last name?
Yeah, Lawrence Shing, Lawrence, last name Xing.
What's your relationship with Dimension Energy, Lawrence?
I am an associate project development manager.
Can you tell the board generally what Dimension Energy does and what you do in your role with Dimension Energy?
Yeah, happy to do so. So like we have on our slide over there, Dimension is a national developer, owner, and operator of small-scale solar projects. Typically, our projects are on commercial warehouses like the one we'll be presenting today, as well as on privately owned land, typically 10 to 20 acres in project size. Typically for what I do, I'm on the development team. We work with the local townships. We get our permits from the townships. We also run all of the diligence for the projects. So for our rooftop projects, we do the structural diligence that we'll talk about in a bit, as well as any environmental and other diligence that is needed for the site.
So is it fair to say that you oversee the documentation and record keeping for these projects, Lawrence?
That's correct.
Okay. And did you help oversee and complete the application that the board has in front of them?
That's also correct.
Okay. So just generally, and maybe I think there's some photos, Scott, for people who maybe aren't as familiar, can you present to the board and both the public what a rooftop or structure-mounted solar farm looks like?
Sure. Yeah. And I think we presented these pictures at our zoning text amendment public hearing as well a couple months back. But just brought a few pictures of Dimension's completed New Jersey projects. So as you'll see, these are aerial photos. They'll show the solar panels. Our projects for the solar panels, they are pretty flush mount to the roof. So they're usually 10-degree tilt. Can't see them from the ground level at all. And they will just sit there. They're not moving throughout the day. Typically come a foot or foot and a half above the roof edge. So yeah, just included some pictures here for everyone. So the panels will run to inverters that are also located on the roof, and then that will run down cable trays down the side of the building that will usually run to a ground transformer pad and be sent out to the utility.
So it's fair to say, Lawrence, that everything is located on the roof except for the equipment pad and then the electrical lines that connect to the local grid?
That's correct.
Okay. The board has in their packet the key equipment specs for this project. I believe that's marked as applicant's exhibit D. You know, in your experience in this industry, have you had any safety concerns with those with those materials proposed?
No, not to date.
Okay. And I know sometimes there's worries that some of these panels will have heavy metals or anything like that. Can you explain to the board why these panels are safe, for lack of a better term?
Yeah, I know we get a lot of questions about toxins in our solar panels because solar panels historically in the 70s and 80s used cadmium in them. Now the industry standard are silicone panels, so it's aluminum frame, glass. There is silicone cells, and then there's some trace plastic and electric soldering, but doesn't feature cadmium in the specs.
Can you explain to a board, if this project were to be constructed, Lawrence, how a project like this would be monitored and also maintained?
Yeah, our projects are 24/7 monitored remotely by our asset management team. We typically will do 2 to 3 visits to the site for preventative maintenance throughout the year. And anytime we have inverters that go down or they're not functioning as expected, we'll send local technicians out to site to kind of check out what's going on.
Is it fair to say the applicant has a financial incentive to make sure that this project is up and running and producing output that the applicant expects?
That's correct.
Does the applicant have insurance coverage for a project like this, Lawrence?
Yes.
I brought up that our emergency response plan has been updated. Can you explain to a board a little bit about what some of those changes were and where we're at with that emergency response plan? I know that's a concern that the township that the township has.
Yeah, so we got a lot of comments from the Planning Commission a couple weeks ago for the fire safety plan that we submitted. A lot of it kind of had to do with carryover from some of our ground mount projects where we had some language that is not as applicable to our rooftop projects. So we have since made some updates to that. We've sent it to the fire chief for comments, and we're willing to continue to work through those comments.
And I think, and I believe Mr. Brown is here tonight. I believe this is my understanding of where we are with that plan. I believe the plan is acceptable to the township's emergency management coordinator. I believe the last communication we had was that the emergency management coordinator was talking about one of the official safety programs that's taught for solar panel safety. There was an expectation that the applicant would pay for that training, and then additionally that there would be on-site training just to make sure local EMS is familiar with the project and the safety procedures. So I'll just say, our emergency response plan already says that we'll do annual on-site training. It doesn't say right now anything about that safety program, but the applicant has no problem with paying for that program and would probably expect it as a reasonable condition if this board was to approve this project. Lawrence, does the emergency response plan provide a point of contact for public complaints and inquiries?
Yeah.
The board has in front of them what I have marked as applicant's Exhibit F, which was the glare analysis report for the project. Lawrence, can you just give the board a quick high level? How is that study created? What does it analyze? And ultimately, what was the conclusion of that study?
Yeah, so we use Forge Solar, which is the industry-leading glare analysis tool. We will spec out where the panels are located on the roof. Well, we don't have our site plan over there, but in this case, we spec out assuming that the entire roof is filled with solar panels. As you'll see on the site plans in front of you, we're actually not covering the entire building. Regardless, we are on top of a warehouse that is 45 feet in height. So there's no glare onto any people driving by or any people that are just walking by the site.
And just to be clear, Lawrence, that Forge Solar software that you discussed, that analyzes every single minute of the year, and it takes into account, I believe, 40 occupation points, which are local residences, local businesses, and also the adjacent roadways to the project, correct?
That's correct.
And there was no green, yellow, or red glare predicted, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. A couple other things for you, Lawrence. Lawrence, could you explain any of the traffic generated after construction?
Yeah, I mean, these projects are solid state. They are self-contained. We don't need any employees on site regularly. So the only traffic that's generated is just the maintenance that we'll require to send workers out on site. But typically that's maybe 4 to 10 times a year, just a single truck.
Does the project produce post-construction any noticeable dust?
No.
What about odor?
No.
I'll have Vincent talk a little bit about noise in his testimony. Is there going to be any advertising or anything for a site like this, Lawrence?
No.
Let's talk about screening. Obviously, this is a project proposed on the roof, but as we stated, there will be some equipment on the ground level. Could you give the board a little bit of information on that?
Yeah, so currently we're just proposing typical screening around the ground transformer pad that is in the southeast of the parcel. That is all the way in the back corner of the warehouse, very far from the Cost Road entrance where any public person would be driving by. So it is really well screened already currently, the warehouse itself. So we don't think there's going to be any issues there, but we're happy to work with the township if you guys want us to add any additional screening.
And is there existing vegetation to the south of that equipment pad, Lawrence?
Yeah, there's a tree line to the south already.
But is it fair to say whatever screening the township wants to see around that equipment pad, the applicant's willing to do that?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Any material or waste storage with a project like this, Lawrence?
Nope.
In your experience in the industry, have you ever witnessed a disruption of radio waves or other electronic waves?
No.
We've provided what I have marked as applicant's exhibit G, which is the structural feasibility report. Can you explain what that is? And then, most importantly, how did your team come to the conclusion that this warehouse roof can support a project like this?
Sure. Yeah. One of the critical deliverables that we work on whenever we start one of these rooftop projects is we work with the structural engineer to ensure that the roof is feasible to add the additional weight on top of the roof. So we will contract a structural engineer. They'll analyze the warehouse girders as well as the rooftop membrane material and come back with a PSF or reserve capacity of the building for solar. So in this case, in the reports that we've provided, we have 8 PSF of solar capacity. For context, typically anytime we're above 3 PSF, we feel comfortable moving forward with a project. So plenty of capacity on this rooftop.
And I might have missed it, but what was the PSF for this project?
8 PSF.
8 PSF. Okay. In your opinion, Lawrence, does this use place a strain on municipal utilities?
No, we don't require any sewer or water. We are working with the local EMS to make sure that they are well trained for the project, but we don't anticipate any major hazards to the project. And we also, for any connections to the PPL grid, we're financially responsible for upgrading the grid based on their result studies to us.
Lawrence, the applicant has received comments both from the township's engineer as well as the emergency management coordinator. I believe we talked about those emergency management coordinator comments, but I'd like to talk about the township engineer comments. I'm going to summarize them, but if the township engineer thinks I have summarized them incorrectly, please butt in. Lawrence, the first comment from the township engineer was that the applicant shall confirm that the screening of the ground level equipment is suitable to the township. Lawrence, I think you've said, whatever the township wants to see there that we're willing to do. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
The next 2 comments both pertain to the height of the system. Lawrence, can you explain how high off of the existing warehouse roof these panels will sit?
Yeah, I think based on the pictures that we're just showing, typically at 10-degree tilt, they come up about 1.5 feet, even when they're sitting on the racking.
And as you stated, these are fixed panels. They're not tracking with the sun, correct?
That's correct. They're south facing, so they'll be capturing the sun throughout the day.
I believe the 4th comment was for the applicant to propose that any of the underground electrical lines that run from the equipment pad wouldn't interfere with an existing stormwater system, existing electrical substation, or any other underground utilities. Can you explain, how the applicant will confirm or deal with this?
Yeah, when we get to the construction stage, typically part of our construction diligence is doing a GPR study, ground penetrating radar, to kind of get a feel of where the underground utilities are. We do have an Alta survey, but we like to update that as well before construction. So we'll be able to avoid any existing utilities and work around them.
And in an absolute worst case scenario where, the applicant does disturb one of those systems, would the applicant be willing to remediate or reimburse, whoever owns that system?
Yep.
Okay, understood on that. And I believe the last comment from the township engineer had to deal with an emergency response plan, confirming that emergency response plan is reviewed and approved by local EMS. As Lawrence and I stated earlier, we are working with the emergency management coordinator on that. And the other portion of that was for the applicant to provide on-site training. In our updated emergency response plan, we do say that we will provide annual on-site training to those responders. Lawrence, the Planning Commission recommended that the applicant would recommended an approval conditioned on the applicant executing a decommissioning agreement with the township. Is that correct?
Yes.
Can you explain to the board in your own words why a decommissioning bond with the township may not make sense here?
Yeah, so after we met with the Planning Commission a couple weeks ago, I did go back and take another look at our lease with the landowner, and we do have already in our lease that Corey will provide a financial obligation to provide a letter of credit to the landowner when we do energize the project. So we believe that this would be duplicative.
Yeah, and I can add a little bit of color to that. I have it marked as applicant's exhibit K. I believe it's the last exhibit in the packet. Section 6.3 of that lease with the underlying landowner, that provides that the applicant has to post a decommissioning assurance letter of credit to the underlying landlord. And on top of that, and it's on that first section of 6.3, but the tenant, my applicant, actually has to remove all of their materials and equipment within 90 days of terminating their lease. I took a look at the solar ordinance. The solar ordinance with the township requires that all of that equipment is removed within a year of the project being over. So all I would say to that is, and we're not trying to shirk any responsibility or anything like that here, but my applicant will already be posting a letter of credit with the underlying landowner, and our lease seems to be more stringent than the township requirements. So just wanted to kind of give some additional context there. And Lawrence, and this is my last question for you. Do you believe this use is going to fit in with the surrounding area?
Yes.
And can you explain to the board why you believe that?
Yeah, I mean, we are low impact use. We are in the industrial zone. We're not really surrounded by any residents or neighbors. We're not really generating any additional pollution in the area. And, once we build the project, typically no one's going to think about it again, even when you drive past it.
And I know it seems obvious, I'm sure to everyone here, but this is proposed on a warehouse, not on agricultural land, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Thanks, Lawrence. Do you have anything else to add that Vinny won't cover?
Nope.
Okay.
Does the board have any questions for this witness?
Yeah, I have a question. I know you mentioned about the emergency response and fire safety plan. I know you're going to do the training, I guess, with EMS.
Mhm.
We know technology changes almost daily. Okay,
Right.
so with that training, your training's going to have to be updated daily or monthly or whatever. Are you planning on doing that?
Yeah, in our plan, it's an annual training. If anything does change on site, we can definitely update that to be more frequent. But typically when we build our projects, we're not. I understand the solar technology might be upgrading, but we're not going to be upgrading the system on a monthly basis.
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure so that they have everything at their fingertips. That
Of course.
They, that they really do need. The other thing, thank you for your huge packet. I didn't have time to read all of it, but thank you.
Apologies on all the paper.
Yeah, there goes the trees. You do mention about snow removal, and I understand from discussions that we've had in the past about snow removal and things like that. Have you considered ice? Because ice is heavier than snow. And you do have let's see, where was it? You're going to monitor remotely snow load. But there again, what about ice? Because I know ice is much heavier than snow. How do you monitor something like that?
Yeah, that will probably be part of our preventative maintenance. So if we know that the conditions are worse than usual, we'll have someone out on site. Typically, though, for our structural feasibility report, just in terms of like dead load, they are assuming worst case scenario with snow, ice, and all of that on.
Okay, just have snow, and I thought, well, we do get snow occasionally.
Mhm.
We do get snow, but a lot of times it comes in the forms of ice, and
Sure.
ice is a lot heavier than snow. So I just wanted to.
Yeah, and I think it's a fair question. I think if we, and correct me if I'm wrong, Lawrence, I think if we were closer to our threshold on the PSF allowance we have, I think we'd be a little bit more concerned with that. But I think, Lawrence, like we have, plenty of, I guess, wiggle room with that. Like we're not close to being close to the roof's like maximum capacity, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And also not to get too into the weeds here, but The way our structural engineer did this report was using FM Global requirements, which is global insurance for a lot of these large commercial warehouses. They're very strict on the calculation standards that you need to use for these reports. And even with that, we have APSF. So there's a lot of built-in conservation to that.
And I know everything looks complete, what I see. Not reading all of it, but, paging through it and stuff. I just want to make sure that, we're crossing the Ts and dotting the Is, that when this does come about, that it comes about in the right way and there's no damage to anything. Yes.
Of course.
Thank you. Just feedback. The panels generate heat though when you're making electricity, so there shouldn't be ice that really would form on it. The snow's going to melt, probably, maybe not in its entirety dependent upon the accumulation rate, but it shouldn't be on there long periods where you'd have to worry about ice either sliding down them and ending up over the side of the building. That's
Yeah,
a continual process, right?
Yeah, and then it'll drain as usual.
It drains
rain.
water.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
But snow will accumulate at times. I was actually on a site earlier today in Allentown.
Okay. I have a question. I think I read all this generated electric is going straight to the grid. No, it says in here that we have item 12 that, the zoning officer makes a determination. Sean, what happens if, say, a few years down the road, there's a user for that building where they decide that they're going to utilize that electric on site? How does item 12, where it says about the generation for off-site sale or sale to regional electric grid, whereas to install off-site consumption, the use shall be considered an accessory use. Once it's in, if it's considered primary, there's no really benefit to them if it goes accessory, is it?
No, I think if I'm getting the question correct, I've discussed that with the zoning officer already, and what would happen in a situation where it's primarily for the use of the building, and it would be viewed as any other accessory use of a structure, of a use on site. And they would not, if that's what they were doing on this project, we wouldn't be going through this conditional use process.
But, and this might be for the future, what if there's a flip? Say, for instance, the warehouse user wants it for theirs, and it might not necessarily be for them, but in the future, somebody comes in, they want to utilize it for whatever reason, there's a large electric demand, and then there's a flip where it goes to the primary use. How would that come into play?
They'd need to notify the township that change is being made, and get a permit to allow it as an accessory use of the building.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board?
Yeah, I'll bring up, I was a little concerned after the planning commission meeting about the emergency management. Just some of it seemed like the communication wasn't necessarily real good. So I was going to ask Bill Brown just to kind of speak as to how he views it now. I appreciate that you have been talking with our emergency management coordinator and updating the agreement. You need to swear in Bill Brown to speak.
Yes.
No.
Bill, are you with us?
Bill, he's right
Oh, I'm
there.
sorry, I didn't see you walk in. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were going to be by Zoom. You are with us. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in the matter proceeding?
Yeah, Bill, just some of your questions about, there was some confusion about where the shut off would happen. There was confusion about training. Different things like that. If you could just weigh in on how you're feeling about this project now.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously had quite a few questions when we first sent this out. When we first met about it. Solar panels aren't new to us. There's plenty of them throughout the township. Most of them are I shouldn't say most of them. They're residential. But it's not a new animal to us by any means. However, the scope of this project raised some red flags for us. Most of the questions we had, you took care of answering right away. The training was the big one. we obviously, we're not familiar with them. And I'll be honest with you, after you give us training, we're probably still not going to be familiar with them. It's not our wheelhouse, and it's not something we're going to play with. It's extremely high voltage electricity that we really can't do anything with anyway, because it's always going to be energized. So for the most part, we want to be educated on how to safely operate around it and where we should stay to stay away from it. And that's the biggest reason we want to have this training take place, so we have a good understanding of it. The shut off stuff, we did talk about a site technician or whoever that person may be. I know your plan kind of explains a 24-hour contact person, technicians, doesn't really go into detail of where that person's located. I know you had said about a local technician, but I don't know what you classify local compared to what I classify as local. Me classifying local is me saying, oh, this is bad, I need help, and that person showing up. So, that's one thing we're still trying to define. What is that local? If we have a fire in this building, are you able to get somebody on site to assist us? Or is it somebody remote by phone saying, yeah, I think I shut it off? That is one thing still that on this plan is kind of open-ended to me. But other than that, like I said, everything else, it was a lot of, there were things that needed changed, wording. But the biggest thing is with the shutoffs and stuff, with that person is the biggest thing. A point of contact of who we can get a hold of that can be on site in the event of an emergency. We all know, you guys deal with it every day. It's your wheelhouse. Solar panels it's very rare they catch on fire. There's really not even any data to prove there's been fires in solar panels, because it's that rare that the data doesn't even exist. So our contact is going to be more for if there was a fire in the building and we need to secure these panels because of that reason. It's the panels themselves, they're not that big of a concern. They're not catching fire. It's the building. So that is what we need to figure out, is where is that person located, or even what can you remotely do? Maybe your training will explain that for us, and we'll have a good understanding then and be more comfortable. But without that training, that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, thank you. Lawrence, well, first I'll touch on the training. The updated emergency response plan does say that the applicant will provide annual on-site training. So I think we're good on that. We do need to add, Mr. Brown brought up the exact name of the class, the safety panel.
Yeah, it's solar
safety
panel awareness. Yeah, it's an actual program put on by Bucks County Community College. It's geared towards the fire service.
So I'm thinking, if the applicant, pays for that course, that coupled with the annual site safety, I think we feel pretty good with that training. As far as that one point of contact, I'm not sure if you wanted to respond to that at all, Lawrence.
Yeah, we typically will contract someone closer to when we're turning the project on. So we'll definitely have that for you.
Okay.
We'll update that prior to. And I think I mentioned this to the Planning Commission, but we do have a project that is currently in the final stages over in Hamden. So we should have a local technician that will service both projects. So they should be pretty close.
Is that
Okay.
training at the community college a whole semester, or is it like a day, or Saturday afternoon? What are we talking about time?
I'll be honest, I need to, the applicant is willing to pay for that course.
For 20 fire people?
I think we could probably say, whatever the township thinks is necessary there.
It's a one-day program. They bring somebody in that I think it might have been an 8-hour class. So it would probably be like a Saturday program.
Okay.
And it's all it is it's geared 100% towards solar panel awareness for firefighters.
Thank you.
And I think as far as the conditional use proceeding, the applicant would have to, assuming this project moves forward, would need to eventually pull a building permit. If there was a condition placed on the approval that, there is a emergency response plan submitted to the township, in a form acceptable to the township's emergency management coordinator, and then a second condition, outlining that training and course. I mean, I think that could take care of that. At least those are my
Yes,
thoughts on it.
that would be good to have that as a condition to provide for that training for them, however many workers we need to have there. That would certainly ease some of my concerns. Hearing from Bill certainly helps me feel more comfortable. Also, one other question I had, you had mentioned the decommissioning, that's in the lease agreement. I was wanting to check with our solicitor as to whether that met, I mean, we were talking about having an actual decommissioning, something with a bond. I mean, if it's in their lease agreement, how does that compare in terms of coverage for?
I was waiting for the board to complete their questions. I was going to have some questions, so that, thank you for the opportunity. What I want to clarify, I understand there are provisions in the lease. We had discussed having a separate agreement with the township, which I understand is acceptable, that would make it consistent with the terms of the lease. I'll take it step by step. That's agreeable. Correct.
Yes, the only thing that the applicant wants to avoid is having to post like duplicative securities, one with their landlord and one with the township.
Right.
I mean, as long as the security is in place for it to be removed, I think one security is plenty there.
Right, and I would agree with that. What I would suggest is that part of that agreement would be if for some reason there was a release of that security by the landlord, then there would need to be security posted with the township, just so there's consistency throughout that.
Yeah, and that's certainly acceptable to the applicant.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, those are my two main questions. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
I have one more question. Everybody talking about fires and that they don't burn, and you don't have any experience with a fire with these panels ever?
We haven't had any fires on our project.
You're not aware of any, or?
And I would say, I think typically when you see fires on solar-related projects, they're tied to like the battery systems that are on site. We're not proposing any batteries here. So I think, like Bill mentioned, the panels themselves are very hard to catch on fire.
Yeah, and I can speak from my experience, not just with Dimension. None of the project I've worked on, I've had to deal with it. In the media, when I've seen it, it's either been, like Lawrence says, these battery storage systems, or I have seen a couple of the much larger solar projects, the utility scale, like hundreds and hundreds of acres. With those projects come central inverters. They almost look like a tower. And I have seen a couple of those, but again, I would agree with Mr. Brown and Lawrence, like quite rare with all things considered.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Any other questions? All right. We'll keep moving.
Yeah. So at this point, I will call my second and last witness, Vincent DiCastelnuovo. Vincent, would you be able to tell us your name and state and spell your last name for the record?
Sure. My name's Vincent DiCastelnuovo, spelled VINCENTDICASTELNUOVO.
How are you associated with GEI, Vincent?
I am a project manager with GEI.
What does GEI do, and what do you do in your day-to-day at GEI?
Yes, so we are a multidisciplinary consulting engineering firm. Historically, GEI has mostly done geotechnical work and geology and environmental work, but more recently we've been doing civil work, water resources, stormwater design. My day-to-day varies. Mostly I develop site plans. I also coordinate with clients, generate budgets, proposals, apply for permits, basic project manager stuff.
What's your educational background, Vincent?
I have a bachelor's from Penn State University in multidisciplinary engineering design.
In your line of work, approximately how many site plans like we'll see up on the screen or land development plans have you either created yourself or you've helped prepare and review?
So in my 10-year career, 40 to 50.
In creating and making sure that those plans comply with municipalities, do you have to review zoning and subdivision land development ordinances?
Yes.
What types of projects have you worked on other than solar projects, Vincent?
I've done some substation design, transmission lines for the substations as well, retail, commercial, industrial, residential. I've also been a municipal engineer as well.
Have you ever testified in a quasi judicial hearing like we're at tonight?
Yes.
And have you ever been rejected as an expert in those proceedings?
No.
At this time, I would offer Mr. DiCastronovo as an expert in land development and zoning.
And he's admitted as such.
Thank you. Vince, is it fair to say you're familiar with the project we've been discussing today?
Yes.
And you're familiar with the conditional use application the board has in front of them?
Yes.
I'd like to introduce what I have marked as applicant's exhibit C. They're the site plans. I believe the board has 11 by 17 copies of them. And if Scott, if we could throw them, yep, you already have it on the screen. Fair to say you're familiar with exhibit C, Vincent?
Yes.
And does this exhibit represent a conditional use application? And did you design that site plan?
Yes and yes.
At this point, because I know a lot, the board has a lot on their agenda tonight, could you just provide the board kind of what you think are the most important details of the site plan that we see on the screen? And then I'll probably have some follow-up questions for you.
Sure. So I do want to point out that we do meet, sorry, my laser pointer's not working. That we do meet the setback requirements. So we have a 50-foot front yard setback, which is here and here. The parcel is a bit irregularly shaped, so this is the property line. But this is a 50-foot setback line. We're actually, what is it, 86.2 feet from the property line here to the corner of the building. We also have 25-foot side yard setbacks here and here. And our minimum setback is 193.5 feet. Rear yard setback is also 25 feet, which is off the screen here. So it's well over 25 feet. I would also like to point out we do have this the transformer pad here with some equipment on it. And we are proposing a directional bore to here. So the electrical lines from this pad, from the transformers, will go underground to a pole here. And once we get to the pole, it'll be overhead lines all the way out to the street. And this calls out our pole line up to work out with the utility company. And then this is the array. This is the existing building. These little black rectangles, those are the panels. We're proposing 6,299 panels, which gets us a solar generation of 2.25 megawatts. So each panel generates about 535 watts. We do also have a snowdrift area on the edges here. This way we're not stacking panels and snowdrift in the same spot, just to reduce some of the stress on the roof. We do call out a couple existing features. So right here we have a roof drain, which we make sure we want to avoid. And there's also a expansion joint going right down the middle here, which we're not going to propose any panels on per the structural report. Yeah, I think that basically sums it up. It's pretty simple as far as civil designs go. It's a proposed building, or it's a existing building, so we're not really changing any setbacks or anything, adding impervious or anything along those lines.
I do have a question. Can you go back over where the underground does a transition to above ground?
Yep. So this line coming, it's hard to hold this pointer still. Yeah, it's right here. This line here, there's the pole. That's called a riser pole. So once it gets to this pole, the line will come up and be overhead all the way out to the street.
Yeah,
About how many feet from the structure is that? Just approximately, is that 150 or more?
It's a good question. It's probably a little more than 150 feet.
Okay, my only question would be in the event there was ever a fire with aerial pieces and that much electric going through a line if they're using water. So you're far enough away that there wouldn't be an impediment for the fire company. So, all right, I'm all right with that.
Yeah, and I should have mentioned it with Lawrence, but I do believe the underlying landlord is looking at upgrading their transmission that comes into their warehouse. And that was kind of irregardless of us. We just kind of happened to be doing this project at a similar time. Vincent, and apologies if I forgot it. Could you tell the board what that area is, that kind of checkered area on the west side of the building?
Yeah, so this area right here is just a reserve area. I believe it's in the lease. The landowner doesn't want anything there, so we're just gonna leave it empty. No panels or equipment will go there.
Vinny, do any of the panels extend or hang over the existing roof?
They do not.
Vinny, is there going to be any artificial lighting other than minimal safety lighting at the equipment pad?
No.
We talked about transmission lines. The one last thing for you, Vinny, the applicant has submitted a noise analysis report, which I have as applicant's exhibit E. Can you just explain to the board, one, how that is generated, what are the inputs of that study, and ultimately what the conclusion of that study is?
Yeah, so if you go through the report to one of the appendices, we show how it's calculated. Appendix D says sound pressure calculation. So there's a formula used to generate that. The inputs are the decibel levels in the cut sheets for the inverters and the transformer. Yeah, then the final output is the map. That's the last page of that noise study. So it shows three different contours. So 40 decibel, 50 decibel, and 60 decibel. So 60. So per the solar ordinance, so it's got to be 40 decibels. No, it can't exceed 40 decibels at the exterior walls of any residence, which,
Yeah.
That's like,
This is the very last page of that noise analysis report for the board's
yep,
knowledge.
that's the green contour here that goes around the outside, and you can see there's no residence anywhere near it. The blue is 50 decibel. That's the maximum at any residential property line, which we are not exceeding or near any of those. And then the purple is 60 decibels. That's the requirement at any property line. So we're nowhere near that as well. The property line is this red line here. So we're well within with what the ordinance instructs.
Yeah, and a couple of things, just I know the board has a lot to get to tonight. Obviously, this is just a desktop model study. We're not here to say that it is perfect and everything's going to be exact. I will say, the limit that we're concerned about, because we don't have residences, is 60 at the property line. As you can see, those purple lines are quite far from the property line. That being said, after tonight, your ordinance doesn't go away. If for some reason we're completely wrong and we're violating that, I believe the township would kind of proceed with enforcement notices against the applicant. We did talk at the planning commission, what can you do if there is an issue? Can you decrease the sound? You can. You would place probably a sound wall barrier or something at the equipment pad. I've on all the projects I've ever worked on, I've only seen that done once. It just hasn't been necessary in other places. And I'll just say, and I guess it's just my personal opinion, but with these sound levels, I don't think we're close to the limit, and we're in an industrial zone. Vinny, the other thing I asked Lawrence, do you believe this project's going to fit in with the surrounding area?
Yeah, I do. It's in an industrial zone. And like when we were discussing data centers really in this hearing, it's not going to use any agricultural land. It's going on an existing building. It's far from any residences. We far exceed the zoning setbacks. And yeah, I think it'll fit fine.
That's all I have for Vinny at this time.
Any questions from the board? None? Okay.
Hearing none, if I could just do a very brief 30-second closing, and then that's all the applicant's case that we have to put on, other than reserving the time to speak after public comment, depending on the comments that are brought up. Just in conclusion, the township has provided for structure-mounted solar farms in the light industrial district. The project is a small-scale light industrial development with no negative externalities, especially when compared to other uses in that district. I will again say this is a project proposed on a warehouse, not on agricultural land. As stated, the project will be barely visible from any adjoining properties. And we've submitted a noise analysis report, glare analysis report, an emergency response plan demonstrating that this will be a safe project. Requires no water or sewer, no strain on the school district or existing municipal utilities. The project's clearly not located in a floodplain. And it's the applicant's position that this project would not impair the integrity of the township's comprehensive plan. I think that's all I have. I appreciate the board's time. And at this point, I would just ask to admit applicants exhibit what I have labeled as Exhibit A through K. And appreciate everyone's time.
And they're admitted. So now would be the opportunity for public comment on this application. Is there any public comment? I'm not seeing anybody standing up. Is there anybody online? Their hands. Okay. Then before I turn it back to the chair to move forward with the motion, I'll just note that the couple of conditions that you'll probably want to include that were outlined and agreed to. One is that there would be an emergency response plan acceptable to the emergency management coordinator to include the component of training, and that plan would be submitted at the time of the building permit application. And second is that there would be a decommissioning agreement with the township that's consistent with the terms of the lease, and that would require the security to be posted with the township only if the property owner were to release them from their security.
The other one I would add would be the training, paying for the training that Bill discussed, the day training.
I lumped that in there with the emergency management.
Okay.
Yep.
That's
Yep, that
something-
would be included. The training would be included.
Okay,
Yep.
great.
Okay, thank you, Solicitor Schultz. We're back to the board then for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the Silver Spring Cost conditional use application with the provided conditions that we added.
It's a motion on the table from Laura. Is there a second?
Second.
Nancy, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, if any. That motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. All right, we'll move on to item number 2 under public hearings. This is a comprehensive plan amendment. And again, I'll turn the meeting over to the solicitor for the public hearing.
This purpose of this public hearing is to take public comment on resolution number 27 of 2025 to amend the Silver Spring Township Comprehensive Plan. There are 2 amendments under this resolution. One is to amend the future land use map consistent with the zoning amendment that you would be considering subsequent to this comprehensive plan amendment, and that changes the future land use, reverts it back to what it was prior to your last comprehensive zoning amendment, and that's in the Texaco Road corridor from 114 basically down to the railroad tracks. The second amendment is actually correcting a misstatement in the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan had noted economic development to include warehousing and distribution in the I-1. I-1 does not permit warehousing and distribution. There are non-conforming uses in the I-1, and so that is being amended to reflect that reuse or adaptive reuse of non-conforming warehousing and distribution would be a potential economic development opportunity. With that overview, is there any public comment on the amendment to the comprehensive plan? See none. Do we have anybody online? There was a no? Okay, nothing online. Okay, and that we will close public comment on this item and return it to the chair for consideration of a motion.
Thank you, Sean. Back to the board. I'll look for a motion on comprehensive plan amendment.
Sean, I have a question. If there is, shouldn't we wait till we know on the other issue before we actually vote on the first part, depending?
On the rezone amendment, I mean, I can address the issue on that at this moment. The comprehensive plan and the zoning amendment aren't necessarily needed to be coupled up. This comprehensive plan update would be needed prior to that rezoning amendment. But I'll address the issue that was raised by Mr. Urlitz earlier, which of course we are aware of and the board is aware of. There was staff uses a software application to identify the addresses for properties in the township. That my understanding is that staff understood that that software application, and it does, draws from county mailing information. There was Mr. Urlitz and Ms. Livingston's property at 401 Mulberry had incorrect mailing address information populated in that system. The mailing notice that's required under the MPC is required to go out at least 30 days in advance of the hearing. The notice did go out at least 30 days in advance of the hearing, but unfortunately to the incorrect mailing address. The mailings were returned to the township as undeliverable just last week. As soon as that was identified, staff moved as quickly as they could to try to get notice out to the property owners. That was sent by FedEx and was delivered yesterday, which is too late under the MPC, but it was a good faith effort to try to make sure that notice went out. Out of an abundance of caution, I'll be recommending to you that you table the rezone amendment or the zoning amendment and continue the hearing until your January 28th meeting, which will allow us to make sure that all of those notifications go out to the proper addresses, that the rezone gets re-advertised for the January 28th meeting, and that the properties are correctly posted. I understand from township manager that there were photos taken of all the postings of the properties that the township has.
Based on the solicitor's explanation, I see no reason to wait on the comprehensive plan. I'd like to move to approve that comprehensive plan amendment.
John, I have a question. So what happens if this is approved and then the other part's not in the event, then doesn't that create, because people that would show up for the testimony next month, wouldn't it be better to do them both at the same time or not?
I suppose you'll never necessarily know whether the next motion is going to pass. So what would happen if this comp plan passes tonight and then the zoning amendment does not pass next month? Is my recommendation would be to go back and amend the comprehensive plan to be consistent with the failure of that to pass.
But I know there was a property owner that was sitting up here that was affected that because of the fact that the second part was gonna be pushed to next month. So wouldn't they, like all due reality, like if they're notified that's gonna be pushed, that they would have the opportunity to maybe weigh in if they would want to on this?
I'm not sure why they left prior to an announcement being made on that, but the comprehensive plan does not require specific notification to property owners.
All right.
Okay, there's a motion on the table from Laura. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, if any?
I'll oppose that then.
Okay, the motion carries 4-1. We'll move on to zoning map amendment. And again, I'll turn the meeting over to Solicitor Schultz to open that hearing.
And I've already given an overview under the prior hearing. I'll restate that more simply. There was a mailing error identified in the notification to property owners of 401 Mulberry. There was also an identification later in the process that a property that showed up with no ownership under some county records is owned by Norfolk Southern. So staff will need an opportunity to clean up those procedural issues. My recommendation this evening is that you table this item and continue the hearing until January 28th, so those procedural issues can be cleaned up.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Questions or comments on that? I'll look for a motion.
I'm disappointed that we're not able to vote on this tonight, but however, I will make a motion to table it. We do want to make sure that all of the people affected have proper notification. So we want to make sure. So I will make a motion to table this until the January meeting.
We have a motion on the table. Is there a second?
Second.
Nancy, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, if any, that motion carries. We'll move on to unfinished business, ordinance 2025-10. This amends the Cost Road Bridge vehicle weight limits. Any discussion on this item?
I have a question, Ray. Is staff going to do any of those remediation issues to hopefully push the life of that culvert out? Like the scouring, like JJ and I had a discussion pertaining to like installation rock to help prevent poor scouring. Have we made a decision we're gonna do that to help maybe prevent that from getting to the point of failure?
Are you thinking like riprap rock? Is that what you're referencing, or?
Yeah, we performed that where I work at one point and it kicked the bridge out like a year or two till we got the money to do it because of scouring.
Yeah, so I think what I'd want to do, I understand the request, is that I'd want to understand what that construction component would be a cost.
It's nominal. It's cost of pretty much the size rock from the quarry.
Yeah.
And the crew installing it. But
Yeah, we'll work with HRG and just identify locations that would best suit the stability of the area.
And just for clarification on that note, Supervisor Lenker, there would most likely be some sort of permit required from DEP because there would be in-stream work with that. So that would be some sort of delay in timeline.
that's fine. But I mean, if we can kick that out a year or so, we're not putting the people that live right on the other side of the bridge and sports detour for however long it takes to get the bridge in.
Any other questions? Look for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve.
Dave moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Harry, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, if any, that motion carries. Back before us is a rental ordinance. I understand there's been a few adjustments since we've been looking at this. Did you want to brief on that?
Yeah, sure. From the last time we met last month, I made some adjustments in regards to recommendations to add some credentialing to the ordinance for the persons who are going to be inspecting the rental properties, which includes being a UCC state certified inspector in the areas of building, plumbing, electrical, and mechanical. And the ICC, the International Code Council, also has a certification for a property maintenance and housing inspector, which covers those areas as well. So those were some of the credentialing that I added to the ordinance, and also took the recommendation for moving the notification of a landlord to the township for tenant changes and vacancy from 10 days to 30 days. After those recommendations were adjusted, after my team and myself met, there was also some talks in regards to hotels and motels being exempt from the rental ordinance. However, if a occupant of a motel or hotel stays more than 90 days, then the rental inspection would kick in. We'd view that more of a permanent residency, so to speak. So we did add that. And further, we did further discuss some administrative rental registration time periods, where if a tenant does change mid-year, that the opportunity for the landlord could register their property for another year at that time of tenant change, not doubling their work and also doing it for the new year or whenever the ordinance is adopted. So I was hoping to make those adjustments and bring it back to you next month for review and further consideration for advertisement.
Hey, John, I'm gonna forward you something that it was posted around December 9th. I just got a few days ago. In Pottstown, PA, there was a court decision pertaining to the borough or the governmental entity entering rental units. I was gonna forward it to you. Before we go on that aspect, to make sure it was something similar in the article. I didn't know if you guys had obtained that through any of your trades.
Professional?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have not, David. I think what we were trying to say tonight is we addressed what was requested, but we also found there's a couple other things, and we're going to suggest that we table it, bring it back in January with those edits to approve to advertise in January. John, does that seem consistent with you?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
correct.
And I'll just make sure Sean gets this.
I can address that. I'm aware of that Pottstown case. So
Okay.
I can address that. All the court did in that case is determine that in order for a municipality to enter a residence, they either need to have the consent of the owner of the property, the consent of the tenant, or they have to have a search warrant as opposed to an administrative search warrant. Administrative search warrants come at a lesser requirement under the Constitution. So it basically said administrative search warrants are not going to do the trick. You have to have a full probable cause, Fourth Amendment protected search warrant to enter when there's not consent.
So my understanding when I read this article, and that's why I brought it up, would be it was a similar type thing where there was code inspectors performing rental inspections. So how does that play in if we're going to do something? Because my understanding from that article, and I'm going by the news article, that the municipality did not have the right to enter a rental property unless either asked to by the tenant and or the landlord.
Right, it's just exactly the way I just outlined. You either have to have consent of the property owner, consent of the tenant, or you would have to have evidence to show probable cause for entry under a search warrant.
So we're having an ordinance where we're going in to do an inspection on a unit. If the landlord would not be in favor of it and or the tenant, we have the right to do the inspection.
Right, if you do not have consent of the landlord and you do not have consent of the tenant, you would have to have some evidence that there's a code infraction, and you'd need to go and get a court-ordered search warrant to gain access.
So, like, I have no problem with us doing the rental registration right now, but it seems like, I know some of the other communities around there currently have that, where you have to have an inspection done, and it almost seems like it'd be null and void then.
Most people, I think, in one way or the other comply. I wouldn't say that all landlords are opposed to the inspections. Some of them use that as a marketing device. And many tenants will provide consent because it's rather than making complaints, which is frequently the concern about code infractions that could be harmful to a tenant's life. They're afraid to raise the complaint because they don't want to get evicted under some pretense. And so that's, I think you will continue to see folks consenting to it. There certainly may be cases where you cannot get the consent from either the property owner or the tenant, though.
Yeah, because like if you had a tenant that refused, that puts the landlord in a position that they can't comply.
It puts the landlord in a position of deciding whether to.
Well, they won't
admit
be able
it.
to comply because my understanding is the tenant, because they're leasing the property, has the same right as a landowner.
Right, landlords have a right to enter their property at reasonable times.
Yeah,
Right,
unless there's an event of emergency.
that's right.
I had that today, and I entered an apartment, but I know that there's parameters, like, from what I read in there, where the tenant has the right to say no. So
Yeah.
that's where my concern would come in. We put the landlord in a bind, tenant wouldn't agree to the inspection.
Right, and right. So that's a policy decision this board would need to make, whether you would want to proceed with it. I think the township manager was about to jump in.
Yeah, I just, obviously tonight, we'll table it tonight. We get it. We're gonna make some tweaks to it. I think our core of this is two things to remember. One and foremost is public safety. And secondly, as we sit here in December 2025, we might have 1,000 apartments, and come December 2030, we might have 5,000. And so from a public safety standpoint, that's the intent of starting something now than to wait till we have an issue later. So that was the only intent. It's all about public safety. There's nothing else but public safety.
Yeah, I understand, but
No,
also believe.
I know you agree with the
believe
public
property
safety.
owner's right, and I also believe the landlord has liability if they have an issue where they choose not to make a
Yep.
correction to it.
But our landscape will dramatically change in the next several years. And I'm glad John also went back through it again with the team, just to have some more tweaks to it. All the input given today is good. I mean, this time we'll just table it and come back in January.
Sounds good. Thank you, John. I'll look for
You're
a motion to table.
John, if
Yeah.
we table it tonight, you'll have information next month on this?
Oh, yeah, I'll have it revised completely for your review.
Okay, thank you.
And that would only be to advertise in January if you guys approve to advertise only, not to approve the actual ordinance.
And I'll forward you that article so you can read it. I just want to make sure that I believe in people's individual property rights. So
Okay, sounds good.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion, we table.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, and all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, if any, that motion carries. We'll move on to subdivision and land development. We have one Baden Powell back before us, preliminary final land development plan. Please come up, gentlemen.
I'm Dave Wybrecht with John Melham of Melham Associates, and this is Nathan Main from PSBA. We were here last month, if you remember, and we thought we were ready for approval. Kind of hit a snag because there was a couple issues, and I think the board was just getting hit with it at the time, and so we had a month to let the smoke clear, and we've been working with staff, and I think we have a good plan. The township wants it. We have a number of waiver requests, and pending the outcome of the waiver requests, I think that we're good to go. We'd be happy to answer any more questions. The three issues that were involved were the stream restoration, whether or not that was required. The second one was whether or not we would be considered a hotspot. Your ordinance says it's a case-by-case basis, and we were looking for clarity whether or not we're considered a hotspot. And then the third issue was whether or not we could take a roof drain from a flat roof and take it through the building. Storm sewers are not allowed to be through buildings without a waiver. We don't consider this a storm sewer. We consider it more of a plumbing fixture than we do a storm because it's only taking water from the roof. That being said, I'm happy to discuss anything or answer any question or turn it over to staff if they want to add anything to what I've said already.
Dave, I have a question. Did anybody determine it was a hotspot, or did you just submit those two waivers in the event
We
that?
submitted the waiver request in case we were considered a hotspot because we kind of fell in that category. It's a general definition. It says commercial office buildings with parking lots. Well, that's pretty much everything non-residential or non-industrial or institutional in the township. I don't see how we're a hotspot. This use is actually going to be less intense than it is now because the prior use that was full-time, it was open during the day. This is only going to be used when there's training sessions involved. So there'll be less cars, less parking. And I think in discussing it with the staff, I believe it's the staff's opinion, I don't want to speak for them, that we would not be considered a hotspot.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious if that determination you felt was made by anybody or, okay, got it. Question on it's just a minor thing, the emergency spillway. When I looked at 401N, I'm not sure that was the right section to request the waiver on. I don't know if there was like 4 mentions of the emergency spillways.
You knew this happened, but when you switched over and it got published online, it was the wrong
Okay.
corrections, and there was a little bit of gray area.
Okay.
I often have to call Scott and ask him what the correct section and verse is.
Okay.
I don't know if that's been rectified yet or not, but
Okay. And then the sidewalk and curb, you're looking for a deferral on that?
yeah.
Okay. Any other input at this point, questions or comments?
Well, as far as the waiver requests go, I think number 7 and number 8 can be eliminated since we're not, both of those have to do if we're considered a hotspot. So if we're not considered a hotspot, you don't have to add them. Those waiver requests could be withdrawn.
Okay. And HRG are in concurrence and staff?
Yeah, I would tend to agree with the applicant that when I think of a stereotypical hotspot, I would think of a commercial property with a large parking area, like think of a Walmart or a Target with that kind of parking lot. With a smaller use like this, industry-wide, I don't think this would necessarily be considered a hotspot per se.
Yeah, maybe the definition was intentionally left to be subjective, but
I agree.
some of the terminology, it's pretty
Mhm.
vague, right? So,
Yeah.
Okay. We'll remove those then, I think, Dave, at your request.
Yeah,
Okay.
7 and 8.
Anything else from the board at this point? Anything else,
Just
HRG?
a curiosity question. How big is that building?
It's about the same size the existing building is. Smaller.
Doesn't look that big. That's why.
Oh.
Glad if you were putting buses in there, it just didn't look like it was going to fit, but.
Barely. Yeah, I don't know what the square footage is.
I think we go to 14,000 plus with the addition.
And HRG had actually did a site visit on that riparian buffer in the stream, right?
Yeah, I believe I provided, the board is in receipt of the memo that HRG written regarding the stream restoration waiver, stormwater management ordinance 301Q. I'll just read directly from the memo for the public to be aware. HRG has reviewed the submitted waiver request and supporting information for the stream restoration waiver, and HRG performed a site visit of the subject property and Hoagstown Run. Based on those observations and review of the applicable information from the applicant, we concur with the applicant that this portion of Hoagstown Run is functioning well and does not appear to require in-stream restoration at this subject property. We agree that disturbance within this area could result in more harm than benefit, given the existing stability of the channel and the steeply wooded slopes in this area. We also believe that the nature of work completed within the one Baden Powell site does not disturb the existing riparian forested area and is outside of that area itself. I will also state that HRG is not necessarily providing a formal recommendation of approval or denial of this waiver request because this is a broad application of a waiver. I mean, broad application of an ordinance requirement for any property adjacent to streams, and granting a waiver of this ordinance requirement may influence how other requests are evaluated in the future. So we believe that this would be a decision solely on the board's half. Now that I'm speaking, if you don't mind, I could also speak on a couple other waivers that were presented. For the emergency spillway, I believe the correct ordinance citation for that would be 304H2. But I am in agreement with the applicant's reasoning for that waiver, mainly because it is in a mostly cut area of the basin, and the primary outlet structure conveys the entirety of the 100-year storm for that. I believe the only other waiver request that I would like to touch on is 6035 of Saldo for the vehicular parking. That specifically references the 3-foot front overhang from parking lots to adjacent curbs. I believe the applicant is proposing signage to state that overhang of sidewalks is prohibited, but they are proposing the sidewalk to abut parking spaces. Typically, when we see land development come in to try and, I'd say, work within that 3-foot overhang, we've seen applicants provide bumper blocks prior to curbs or extending extending the sidewalk to a greater width than 5 feet to accompany that 3-foot overhang. Again, I think it'd be board discretion if we think signage is appropriate to limit that overhang in this instance. And I believe all the other waiver requests are pretty straightforward that we've seen on other applications, and I'm in agreement with the applicant on those reasonings for them.
JJ,
Thanks,
what
PJ.
question for you on the vehicular parking? So you're saying bumper blocks and the signs, or just the signs?
I believe the applicant is currently just proposing signage.
Dave, is there a reason that you can't get the 3-foot?
No, you can, you can get the 3-foot in. But what most people end up, what I see most people do in my clients when they get that ordinance, that 3-foot gap, and then they have a 5-foot sidewalk, they typically just make their sidewalks 8 feet wide, and they don't even work, because they don't want to maintain the 3-foot grass strip in there.
Yeah. So
In
you're,
this case, we thought that we could control it by signage, because it's not a heavy-duty, heavy-use parking lot. We thought we could control it with signage. If you turn it down, we'll just put bumper blocks on and wheel stops.
so you're putting the wider sidewalk in then?
No, we're just leaving it 4 foot. We're asking that we could control it with signage. If you don't agree, we'll add wheel stops. Parking lot owners don't like wheel stops. You know why?
Yeah, snow removal
Yeah.
when you hit them
And
and
they all get beat up every year, and that's why.
replace them, or whoever does the snow removal replaces them every year.
Any other questions from the board?
Down here.
Okay, we'll move to a motion. We can start with the waivers one by one, or we have 7 at this point. We've removed 7 and 8.
Actually, Carl, I do have a question for our solicitor. I'm in favor of the waiver on the stream restoration because I think this is such a minor redevelopment plan. I understand the Sporting Green Apartments were concerned of how this would impact their plan. I think they have a more major land development plan. What I'm asking you is, can we tighten up our ordinance on this? Because it's very vague right now. So something minor like this plan doesn't make sense to me. And plus the stream is quite a distance from where they're working. But you could have a redevelopment where somebody comes into a site, tears down structures, regrades the property, that, in that case of redevelopment, that could, in my mind, warrant stream restoration. So I think, can we clean up the ordinance so we're more specific for future going?
Of course, sure.
Yeah.
You can certainly do that.
Okay, because it does seem extremely vague to me at this point. I thought it was a great idea. I remember when Chris Guarino actually brought up the idea many years ago and thought it was a great idea, but it's quite vague.
And it needs to kind of scale to the project.
Right,
Is it
right.
Sean, I have a question. So if Sporting Green Apartments would not disturb the area down from like the edge of the run up so far, they should be able to get away without doing restoration, because their site's similar to theirs in all reality. It's natural, mature trees. You have the natural riparian. So wouldn't that work to their favor?
I wouldn't jump into the details of that one while we're considering this one, but
No,
I'd probably look at more detail on that to see whether there's further differentiation. I mean, the scale of the project is very different.
The difference is that we're far removed from it. They're directly up against it. And plus, they were only allowed apartments by conditional use. One of the conditions placed upon that approval was to do a stream restoration study. So we didn't need conditional use. We were a use by right, and that's the difference between us and them.
And I think they may have come in just before the amendment to the ordinance, and they agreed to include that as a condition of their conditional use.
Yeah, but kind of what Dave said with their site, like to me, nothing, the natural riparian, when you start disturbing, you're making sediment. Like, I could see if we didn't have any sort of riparian along there and the stream was in need of restoration, I think we need to look at that, because all
Yeah.
you're doing is making.
Sure. Yeah, I think what both you and Supervisor Brown are suggesting, it's sort of two pieces of it. One, the scale of the project is important, and two, the condition and effects on the stream. You'd want to analyze that, and that's why I think it's good to have some component of it being sort of on a case by case basis, but maybe build some thresholds and some other qualifications for the projects into the zoning ordinance.
Because the stream's already at an ideal functional capacity, either with the banks being preserved and you have a natural riparian compared to one that's in distress due to washouts and or other issues that the stream's experiencing. And then I could see saying, hey, look, there needs to be something done. But to me, when it's established, you have it there, why mess with it?
Right.
So.
Right. Anybody on the board have any thoughts on the third waiver? I think the bumper blocks was probably the only outstanding item as far as the waivers go.
I've never been a big fan of signage because people don't read it. They're in a hurry, they pull in. But I also have done snow in parking lots with bumper block. So I won't die on that hill fighting that battle.
I can tell you for the adjoining property with the parking we have there, we every year had to replace the majority of it.
Right.
Wow.
No, and then you have rebar sticking up for somebody to park on when it gets snapped off that.
If I may add something, because the whole thing was my idea. I'm John Melham, pardon my voice. The reason some of us in our office felt this was a good, and there really wasn't a debate over it. The function of the sidewalk against the curb makes common sense. People get out of their car. They don't want to walk across a 3-foot strip of wet grass, or more than likely a snowbank, to get to a sidewalk. So it's just counterproductive. Sometimes these ordinances, they always mean well, but sometimes in specific situations, they're self-defeating. And I think this is a case in point. We're also all of us are trying to reduce impervious surfaces. Now, not to the point where it hampers access or anything like that. But to put an 8-foot wide sidewalk where you really don't need it, it's just a waste of material and money, in my estimation, and it burdens, you're doubling basically you're doubling the impervious coverage for a sidewalk. So to me, it warrants a second look at it, just from common sense point of view. This is a private property. The people coming here are at Mr. Main's invitation, his people. If we can't instigate something, just if people park over the curb a little bit with a sign, please respect this, I think it's just good practice to try that. Rather than put bumper blocks in, do a heavy-handed thing and having to repair those every 2 or 3 years. So that's the common sense of it from my standpoint as an LA. It's functionality. The only thing we're worried about is someone going to park over that curb? Well, if they do too much, someone's going to comment about it, particularly if you have polite signage requesting it. In a situation, I wouldn't say this would work at a Walmart, but in something like this where you have a controlled clientele and you have a certain decorum and you have a regular use schedule put up, to me, it's an ideal situation to do it.
Vast majority of the vehicles.
Cops don't
Well,
speed, police don't speed, police don't run red lights, police.
Chief is
Nathan,
certainly busy.
He's got his ears closed.
I would, obviously depending where the board is, I think it would be a great value to come back in a couple months to share a little bit more about this facility. I think the public would appreciate what its purpose is in terms of public safety for our students, in all of Pennsylvania.
Dave, what's the ADA requirement, for sidewalk for like wheelchairs and or handicapped individuals? Is it 36 or 48? No, just for them to, like, say somebody would happen to pull over
I
What-
believe minimum width is 36 inches.
36. I knew it was 36 or
And then
48.
wider for a passing, but minimum for one way is 36.
So if they pulled in over, are you still, in the event somebody would happen to do that, width wise, would it permit the 36 for someone to get by in the event somebody's ADA?
That won't happen in the case of, we look at the plan, you'll see where we have our accessible parking spaces. They're right by the path there. The only way they could be fouled is someone who's not ADA has pulled over that.
They're new and set up by the building.
Right. Well, one is, and the others are existing, they we repositioned there in the main parking lot.
How wide's the sidewalk?
We have 4 feet along, we have proposed 4 feet along the edge of the parking lot. But the paths going up to the building are wider. And if you wish, we could increase the width of that 4 foot to 5 foot if Mr. Maines has no objection to that minor addition.
I would be all right with that then, if it was five
It's just the
foot.
principle of the thing, try to minimize money
I
and
understand
waste, that's
the
all.
stormwater, understand.
Thanks, John. All right, we have 7 waivers. We could consider those as one if the board's comfortable.
I'm comfortable.
Look for a motion on the waivers.
Well, with number 3, can we put the sidewalk width to be 5 foot with that
Yes.
waiver? I'd be all right with it then.
All right. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the waivers.
Nancy moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Laura, second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, if any. That motion carries. And then a motion on the preliminary final land development plan.
I'll make a motion to approve the preliminary/final land development plan and associated waivers.
Nancy moved. Do we have a second?
Second.
Harry, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, if any. That motion
Merry
carries.
Christmas.
Thank you, guys.
Merry Christmas to you. Thank you very much.
Next is Sunrise Land Holdings. This is a construction modification. Was there a request to table, I believe, on this one? Staff? Okay. JJ, any?
Scott Scott, I mean, I'll defer to you if there was a request to table or not.
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay, I'll look for a motion to table then.
Wait a minute, we're on the Sunrise
Mhm.
holding. I do have one quick question now that you're back, Ray, on this before we vote. What alterations have they done to improve?
If my understanding is they had placed some rock to use as some part of the parking lot and expanded it without knowledge.
Yeah, from my understanding from the previous submission, the applicant has not proposed additional parking improvements. It's the same application as was previously submitted with addressing stormwater comments that were submitted by HRG.
Yeah, in our packet, though, they made the comment that they've done things to improve parking
Just
by.
verbiage, no,
Yeah.
no.
So, like, what could you do to improve parking? Like, I don't,
I personally don't think at this time there is anything from a land development sense that could be enforced on them. They were in compliance with the ordinance at time of submission. So I'm not sure if there's any quote action that can be taken on them.
all right.
Look for a motion to table. Yeah,
Motion to table.
Nancy moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Harry, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, if any, that motion carries. Next is preliminary final re-subdivision plan. Anybody here to speak on that, sir?
Hi, good evening. My name is Scott Akins with Akins Engineering, here to represent the plan this evening. The plan before you tonight is a simple subdivision plan between two adjoining properties. They're both properties are on North Locust Point Road. Lot number 1 is at 854 Locust Point Road and is an existing 57-acre property. Existing lot number 2 is at 858 Locust Point Road and is an existing 0.94 acre property. This plan proposes to add about 0.67 acres to existing lot 2 and to then create a new 2.25 acre lot for the existing home on existing lot 1, separating that from the agricultural land that's currently on existing lot 1. That agricultural property that lot will be created under a non-building sewage waiver, so there's no development proposed for that lot at this time. The subdivision is to facilitate the future sale of the home on existing lot 1. We've received township comments, HRG comments, township staff comments, and county comments. We don't have any issues with complying with any of the comments provided. There are going to be 2 waiver requests that we would like to ask for consideration along with the plan this evening. One is from section 303 so that the plan can be considered a preliminary final and not just preliminary. And the other waiver request would be from section 40203.1 for an environmental resource and site analysis plan. Since we're not proposing to do any development, we don't feel that this is applicable for this particular subdivision. That's pretty much it in a nutshell, and I'd be happy to answer any questions at this point.
Thank you. Questions? Anything from staff? Okay. I'll look for a motion then with the 2 waivers.
I would make a motion to approve the preliminary final re-subdivision plan on parcel ID 38-07-0463-020 and 38-07-0463-069 with the waivers as presented.
We have a motion on the table. Is there a second?
Second.
Harry, a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, if any, that motion carries. Thank you, sir.
take you over your time.
Next is Walmart
you.
construction modification. Anybody here to speak on that? JJ?
I can speak on it quickly. Basically, it's just some stormwater piping changes due to a utility conflict. That's about it.
Thanks. Comments, questions? Look for a motion.
You're comfortable.
Yeah, all comments were addressed. We're good with it.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Dave moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Harry second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, if any, that motion carries. New business, we have budget appropriation for 26. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
We have a motion on the table to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Dave second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, if any, that motion carries. The tax levy resolution 2025-31. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve.
Dave moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Harry second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, if any, that motion carries. 2025-32 is designation of Township Tax Collection Agency. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Nancy moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Harry second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, if any, that motion carries. Next is land preservation for 9 Still Meadows Lane. Laura, did you want to speak on this?
Yes, I'd ask Scott to pull up a map on this. This is a beautiful 26-acre alpaca farm up off of 944. It's on the eastern side of the township. What you'll see on the map is it's fairly close to property that we preserved in October, the Mechanicsburg Sportsman's Club, 153-acre property, which is now preserved. The Pennica property, like I said, 26 acres, alpaca farm with some great woodlands on the property. Lovely to preserve. So, and it's surrounded by quite a few other properties that would also be lovely to preserve. So we're hoping that much as we've built out a block of preserved farms on the western side of the township, we're hoping to make this one out of many that are preserved in the eastern side of the township. So that's all I wanted to point out about that.
Thanks, Laura. Dave asked if we could wait for his vote. I think he had to take
Sure,
a quick break.
sure. Not a problem.
I'm not sure what to do in the meantime.
I can talk. I can talk about the property. more.
Scott, do we have music we can play?
We can
Anything at the
we can
dentist
sing
office?
Christmas carols.
Nancy's gonna sing.
You can take that up with him, Chief.
They have a thriving alpaca business. They sell alpacas. There's a cabin on the property that they use for prospective buyers of the alpacas that come and stay at the cabin, which they refurbished. They have a couple different barns for the male alpacas and the females with babies. And quite the operation going on. And at one point they were going to get a guard llama to protect their male alpacas because they do have quite a few. They get bears, they get coyotes, fox, other animals there. So they do have a guardian dog, big dog, very friendly, but definitely scary for coyotes. So they have a full operation. It's gorgeous property. And I can't think of anything else to say.
Oh, pretty good. Bought us some time.
Let's just wait for Dave.
Can you juggle, Laura?
Can I chuckle? No, I don't think anyone wants to see that.
Dave, we gotten through 3 Christmas carols.
So did you just?
I want Nancy to have an extra couple of minutes as a board member at a meeting before she's done here.
Any questions, Dave? on that? Okay. Look for a motion then.
I'll make a motion to approve items A and B on this agenda item for 9 Still Meadows Lane.
The motion on the table, is there a second?
Second.
Nancy second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, if any, that motion carries. Greyhawk Development, Spinnaker Property Management. Do you want to brief on this, Sean?
Yes, as you know, the township was engaged in some litigation that's has been settled. This is what you have in front of you is acceptance of the settlement payment for $100,000. the approval of the settlement agreement. And then a number of items that sort of flow from that. The motion C, the recognition that through the settlement agreement, all obligations required of Spinnaker and any township ordinance, all agreements pertaining to the Greyhawk Landing development and the approved land use plans of record have been satisfied. We've confirmed that. You would be accepting dedication of the remaining undedicated improvements that have been inspected at this stage. I think it's a good settlement, and it's for the board to move on each of those motions.
Questions from the board?
We can do these all as a cluster, right?
You may, sure.
Yeah.
Comment?
All right.
Okay, so Greg Brammer, North Locust Point Road. There was an agreement with Greyhawk early on, and I can't tell you all the particulars of it. I just know that the fire companies were to receive a certain amount of money for each property that went in. We received, I can speak for the Kingstown side, we received in 2020 for 43 lots and nothing since then. And so I'm pretty sure that they built more than 43 in there. So I'm not sure what the status of that is, but I'd ask that you or staff look into that.
Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, Greg. Any other input? Okay, I'll look for a motion. We could take these as one if the board wishes, or we could go individually.
I'd make a motion to do them all once, just get it out of
Same
the way.
here.
I'll make a motion to approve items A, B, C, D, E, and F as on our agenda pertaining to Spinnaker properties management settlement.
There's a motion on the table. Is there a second?
Second.
Nancy, second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, if any. That motion carries. Under expense approvals, we have Cumberland Valley Underpass. Any comments or questions on this?
I have a question in that I didn't realize it was going to cost us anything.
Yep, can answer that question. The underpass was not to cost us anything, and the underpass itself will not. We have met with them, and one of the things I want to just make sure to protect the township is when you pass something over and you don't have someone to audit that work, you then accept whatever the outcome of that is. This specific area, we're concerned about some stormwater issues, and we don't want to see an underpass, and then someone says, "Do you know, it's flooding," and we didn't have anybody keeping an eye on it. So JJ, I know we've had him at the last meeting. I think it's to protect us, the township, the $18,000, just to make sure if anything happens that we are all aware and we get a chance to call it out. I don't want to sit here one day and say there's a bad situation and we said, well, that's PennDOT, and no offense against PennDOT, but we're stuck with it then.
No, you're right. That's helpful.
That was the 18.5.
And just for clarity, this is a purely time and materials proposal. So if there's less than the time requested as proposed in this, it would cost township less money overall. And I believe ultimately that the reason for this separate project assignment, other than doing it through the retainer, is just to track costs associated with this project.
Okay, any other questions? Look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Nancy moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Laura, second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, if any. That motion carries. We have Pliggett Investments. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Nancy moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Laura, second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, if any. That motion carries. And we have two transfers into different funds. Any comments or questions? If not, I'll look for a motion on these two.
You're doing them as one?
If you're comfortable. If not, we could separate them out.
Okay, I will do a motion to approve items A and B for the transfers.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Harry, second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, if any, that motion carries. JJ, engineering update?
Yeah, sure, thanks. So just quick updates on Paul Walters Park and municipal campus projects. Obviously, you know, we awarded both those projects last month. We're going through the contract finalization process right now. We received all the contract documents back from the contractor, forwarded them on to the township. Once township reviews, approves that, we should be good to move forward with our pre-construction meetings for both projects in early January. For New Kingstown Streetscape, last month I gave the update. We submitted our HOP permit. We actually got comments back and already resubmitted the permit. So that's just an update on that. Hopefully should have permit approval in January after the holiday. And then on Trindle and Locust Point Roundabout, we have our design field view meeting with PennDOT tomorrow. And so hopefully no surprises come from that, and we should be good to move forward.
JJ,
Yes.
can you tell us what the comments were for the new Kingstown?
I honestly don't know them off the top of my head, but they were two very minor comments, probably plan related. They weren't anything regarding design, like changing the design itself.
Height of the curb, was that?
I do not believe that was a comment.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, JJ.
Yep.
Anything else for JJ? Okay, we'll move on to supervisor and staff
Well,
comments.
real
Go ahead.
quick, when do we estimate them to mobilize over at Woods Drive to start January-ish?
Yeah, so actually, the contractor reached out to us today asking if we can hold a pre-con sooner rather than later. So once we get the contract documents signed, we'll schedule that pre-con as soon as possible and get that schedule finalized. But if they're already asking for it, I'd assume January is probably a realistic timeline.
Okay, anything else for JJ on that? Thank you, sir. Okay, we'll go to supervisor and staff comments. If it's okay, I'd like to maybe take the lead on this. I have something special here I'd like to go over. I know, Nancy, you're not one for fanfare, but you're not getting out of here with at least a resolution from the board. So I haven't gotten kicked yet, guys, so I think I'm doing all right. So but if you'd allow me to just read a resolution. This honors Nancy's service. So it's written and says, whereas Nancy Conhouse Griffey, a lifelong resident of Silver Spring Township, has faithfully served as Township Supervisor for 18 consecutive years, spanning from 2008 to 2025. Whereas Nancy has shared her longstanding family heritage with the Township, offering insights into the area's past and shaping its future. Whereas Nancy has served as both Chair and Vice Chair of the Board of Supervisors, and she has served her community through participation on numerous Township committees and events, and has overseen various projects and initiatives aimed at improving the Township quality of life during her tenure. Whereas Nancy has displayed her commitment to maintaining stable tax rates, ensuring fiscal responsibility, preserving farmland, and improving public services. Whereas the time-honored service and commitment of Nancy Conhouse Griffey has left a lasting impact on the community, her leadership, work, and dedication exemplify the qualities of an effective public servant. Whereas the Board of Township Supervisors desire to permanently document their gratitude and recognition of said board, and on behalf of the citizens of this township for the level of service provided by Nancy, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors, in recognition of the excellent public service demonstrated by Nancy Conhouse Griffey, hereby commends her. Now be it further resolved that this resolution be permanently entered upon the minutes of the December 17th, 2025 meeting of Silver Spring Township Board of Supervisors, and that a copy be delivered to Nancy, which will be easy to do since you're right next to me. So thank you very much, Nancy. We have a special.
Yeah, Nancy.
Thank you, thank you.
Your sister wanted me to send her best to you.
Is that-
Said, you know what she actually said? Too bad, whatever she says back.
Nancy, I have a question. How long was your dad on the board? 2 terms?
I think 2 terms, yeah.
So that makes 30 years service from the Conhouse family to Silver Spring Township in the role of supervisor. So that's a long time.
Yes. So, thank you all. Actually, I did, would, do you want to do what you?
Yeah, we'll go around. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then I have something I want to
Okay,
say.
yeah, let's take,
There, actually, we have one other presentation.
come on up, Frank, yeah.
Hi, Frank.
Hi, Nancy. Great to see you.
Nice to see you as well.
I'm here both as an individual to say thank you, but also the Land Preservation Review Board greatly appreciates the support that you've provided throughout the existence of our program. In addition, obviously, you were on the board when our program needed to be approved, or the resolution to allow the voters to approve our program, and you certainly approved that. And that means a lot to all of us, and you've continued to strongly support the program. So our board, the LPRB.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Frank.
And I
Very
just
kind,
like to
thank-
say, yes,
Well, we will keep in touch. Don't worry. I'm not leaving the township.
myself personally, I thank you so much for your service. 18 years, all the extra time, all you guys spend reading all the
People like you,
plans,
though,
all that
inspired
stuff.
the rest of us to do what we do. So thank you, Frank.
Yes.
Thank you, Frank.
I don't know if JL or Rob wants to say something, but
While Rob's coming up, I also failed to mention, we have a certificate of service from PSATs that I forgot to present to you, so I'll give that to you now as well. Just honoring your service as well. So go ahead, Rob.
Thank you.
Nancy, when I helped work with your last campaign, you gave me this book called The Lorax. And I'll just read one page in here. The end here, it says, "But now, says the Onceler, now that you're here, the word of the Lorax seems perfectly clear. Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It is not." Well, things did get better. Things are better as of you, Nancy. Thank you.
Thank you. You read that to yourself
I
every,
read it over and over.
good for you. Good for you.
Thank you, Rob. Okay,
You're welcome. Thank you.
all right, let's take some staff comment to close out. Scott, anything? Willetta? We should take a motion on the resolution to solidify that. Yeah, is there a motion? Thank you, Willetta.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Dave moved. Do we have a second?
Second.
Laura, second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Do I vote on that?
Are you abstaining, Nancy?
That motion carries. Thanks for that, Willetta. Amy? John?
Happy holidays. I'll see you all tomorrow.
Thank you. Suba? Thank you. Cheryl? Thanks, Cheryl. Bill?
Thank you. Thank you. I just want to throw my hat up in the air like when you graduate.
Chief?
And just, finally, always a lot of questions. You follow up with that question.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Chief. Solicitor Schultz.
Follow up with someone who's been here for 10 years now too. I can just barely see you beyond the flowers there, Nancy.
So used to surrounding.
A rose between two thorns.
But of course, you know, I've served as an elected official for a long time with a number of fellow elected officials. I've served as solicitor, continue to for a number of municipalities and boards. And I can say that none surpass you in your dedication to the work. But I've especially enjoyed your quick wit that I think everybody sees from time to time in the public meetings. And it's been an enjoyable 10 years, and you're an admirable public servant, Nancy. So thank you.
Nancy, I'll just say this. I admire your passion for your community. It's amazing. You live and breathe the earth you walk on and the place that you created. And we'll see each other, I'm sure, but I just want to say thank you for your unwavering vision to say, I believe what I believe, and you'll vote the way that way. So thank you for everything.
Thanks, Ray. JJ?
It's been great getting to know you in this short time, Nancy. Hopefully see you around the next coming years. And then also Merry Christmas, everyone.
Thanks, JJ. Laura?
Yes, Nancy and I ran together in 2019. That's when we really got close. In 2020, I was pretty overwhelmed as a new supervisor, and she stood beside me and helped me through, especially we had COVID happening at the same time. But I've enjoyed, yeah, COVID was craziness. But I've enjoyed sitting next to her. I love her sense of humor, and she's always been supportive and encouraging. I'm going to miss you a lot. So thank you for all that you do for this community. Thank you.
I have offered to come and sit under the table. Which way she should pose.
Thanks, Laura. We'll go to Harry.
Nancy, it's been fun,
Yes, it has.
but thank you for your service. I know that it means a lot to everybody. I know that you helped me during the first election, and you'll help me during the next election.
Anybody that wants to run, I'm there to help.
But I thank you for your service, and
Thank you.
I know we do appreciate it, and it's been great working with you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Harry. Dave?
And now
Go
wait,
ahead.
I'm
Sorry,
not-
I thought you were done. Carry on, sorry.
Are you leaving, Carl?
Another 2 minutes.
Okay. I want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year and a safe one.
Very good. All right, thanks, Harry. Dave?
Ray, real quick, when's our electric agreement end for our electric provider?
Constellation's the provider. I'd have to look at with the term. Yeah.
The authority had.
Did
there
you
was-
guys hook up with someone or?
Well, there's a lady that lives up in Middlesex that is, I guess, maybe endorsed by PSAT and the same with the PMMA. So
Sure.
I'll give you her contact
That'd be great.
information. Because apparently, according to her, like, depending on how you shop, like, potentially some things could be changing for the worse. So I just wanted to check.
Thank you for that resource.
The other thing is the 114 eastbound in Texaco Road. We were only getting the arrow on the westbound. I thought when we did that, it was going to be both directions.
What I would have to do, Dave, is I don't have the permit in front of me because it would be in the permit.
No, yeah, but when we had talked with, I believe it was HSS and.
They had not just, they have not agreed to anything at this point.
I thought that was part of the Costco with 114.
westbound, the arrow. I thought it pertained to both sides of the,
What I can do, Dave, is look at the HOP permit to see, because it would have to be on the permit to make those arrows east and westbound.
this is my opinion, like the setback for the left turn into Piper Lane is significant. It does not allot or afford people the opportunity to do a left on yellow.
Mm.
If it's not there, I think we spend money to get that in. There's not a ton of traffic, but when it is, the setback because of the turning template for the combination vehicles is such that it's back significantly. I'd like to see us look at that.
Thank you.
The other thing, the preemption, and I don't know if, Greg, you're from New Kingston Glen. The other week there was a fire call. You guys came up to the light, I think multiple apparatus. That preemption, I don't think's working there at the Harley Davidson going 11 North because it didn't trip.
I would say they're intermittent sometimes anyway.
Well,
I know it worked Saturday.
yeah.
Saturday it worked.
All right. But like if we have those issues, we ought to be having them checked out. And not pertaining to that issue, I have seen other intersections, and I spoke on this a few years ago, of individuals I don't think following the law when they come there and there's a red light, and it's not what I've seen out of your department. This goes for mutual aid companies. If they're coming into the township, like when they come to an intersection, and I've seen this at Texaco Road, it's too close to call for me for like, if it's red, I think they're supposed to stop, proceed with caution, not go through or slow up and go through. Can we have that as a discussion item at the next emergency management meeting? Because I brought it up a couple years ago. I had seen a couple issues that was pretty much scary, so I'd like to see that addressed. And then, the Christmas time, I say this every year, think about your neighbors. There's people out there in the community that might be hurting, that do not reach out for help, or they're by themselves, that are neighbors, maybe reach out. I mean, it's one day a year, and I think, sometimes that makes that day special, but even throughout the year, some people, especially in this economy, don't have, the basic enjoyment that maybe some others do for multiple reasons. So I asked, if you know people like that, reach out to them and try to help them out. And we usually save the best for last here. Nancy, our family, knowing your family, I think pushing probably, I'd say almost 100, probably, about 80 years. Your family has been a pillar of the community for a long time. And, it used to be a sense of community here. Most people knew everybody. We've kind of morphed to more of a larger scale compared to the micro, where even though we were a large township, you knew most of the people in the township. You're one of the families that, in the whole West Shore area, your father, I think, made that, family value that, you do good for the neighbors, you do good for the community, and make the township a better place. And I think you grabbed that torch from his hand at some point and carried that through. So, I mean, I know you were instrumental since I've been on the board. I've been on the board all but 2 years you've been on that. I think about the direction we came from the old township building. Some of the other things that the township has encountered, that I know you were a stalwart, along with some of the other board members, to look out for the best interest, especially financially with the township. And, I mean, that means a lot. The money that could have been spent could have put the township in a different financial spot than what we are now. And a lot of that credit goes to you and,
Thank you, Dave.
you know, you don't, a lot of people take that stuff for granted, but till the people, the community, know, what had happened through the years, the battles that are fought behind the scenes, I think they take for granted anybody sitting up here because there's a lot of things we encounter that's outside this meeting and outside this forum that they don't know about. So that's true for a lot of the former supervisors we've had. I think the township's in a good financial spot because people that, like you, that looked out for the pennies as well, the dollars and the pennies. So, I look forward to assisting you with the cemetery. I know you do goodwill there.
I wanted to give it to you, Dave.
If you need a volunteer to do anything, Nancy's looking for stuff to put on her plate now that she has all this extra time. So you do a lot for the community. Congratulations, Nancy, on your official retirement, and enjoy life some.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Dave. I have to share just a few comments too, Nancy. I'll also miss your humor and wit. Appreciate your ability to navigate challenging issues. I think we've all learned from you. I think we all up here appreciate and understand your commitment, the sacrifice you've made. I was trying to calculate the hours the other day. I lost track. I don't know what that final verdict would be, but it'd be interesting to understand exactly how many hours you've given.
So when you're enjoying it.
Right. So finally, just thank you for your leadership, your mentorship, and your service to the community. I didn't write that resolution all myself. I did have some help, so I can't take full credit, but I know. So, yep, that's all I have, Nancy. Thank you. Thanks for everything you've done for the community. And I think with that, we'll look to adjourn. Oh, I'm sorry, please. Yes, go on.
Everybody stay in this.
She's waiting for Tom to run through and say she's doing another 6 years.
Anyway, thank you all for your kindness and generosity. I'm touched. I really am. I was hoping to just kind of go quietly into the night, but I did make a couple notes, and I basically just want to say that it's really been an honor and a privilege, and I've enjoyed almost every minute. I love this township. I've made many friends and a few enemies. But we have a first-class staff here, and that includes Cheryl and Sean and JJ. And I'm not going to be naming all these names because there are too many names. But one of the things I've come away with in this job is a deeper appreciation for our amazing and selfless volunteers. And that in particular is the fire companies, New Kingston and Silver Spring, and then obviously the ambulance. I've been on the ambulance board, and I just walk away with respect for all of these people all the time, doing things that many of us would never consider doing. And so I knew that before I got involved, but I really knew it. I really know it now. And if you don't spend any time with these people, do spend time with them. Thank you to our bright and shining police force. To my fellow board members, thank you for sometimes agreeing with me. Willetta, many thanks for always making us look good. Ray Palmer, you're a prince of a township manager. We are blessed. It does not go unnoticed that you work 60 hours a week putting this township on the map, and you make me proud every day. Residents, we are so fortunate. Consider getting involved in this kind of thing. I mean, people think about it and they don't do it, but you can do it. And I always bring up the story of my grandmother. When I was a kid, we had to go to Sunday school every Sunday, and I would complain about going to Sunday school. And furthermore, I didn't think the teacher knew what she was doing or what she was talking about. And Grandma said, well, Nancy, if you think you can do a better job, maybe you should go teach the Sunday school lesson. And I would say that to anybody that has a complaint, think about that. Go teach the Sunday school lesson if you think you can do a better job. The other thing I would like to say is Mark Pottiger's in the audience, and he is the person who's going to be replacing me. And I know that's going to be really hard, but seriously, he is a good businessman, and I think this is a business, and you need to have that kind of business head to be able to make many good decisions here. So I welcome you. I think he's going to do an amazing job, and I can walk away knowing that the seat is in good hands. And that's all I have to say. Merry Christmas. Thank you. Okay, now you can adjourn.
I have permission to adjourn now. Seeing and hearing no objection, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.